welcome back to Reasoned Answers.
It's as good as waging war against Allah and His Messenger.
As you can see, I am joined by David Wood today, and just so you know, neither one of us is covered in semen, which of course is proof that we are not prophets of Allah.
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that we're both, because I mean, someone just jumping in here and be like, wait, this guy's not covered in semen. This other guy doesn't say anything about it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, good job. Anyway, good job. Continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to point out that it was very good, because I was going to say you need to say something, because I made it very clear. I made it very clear where I stand. I made it very clear where I am in this whole situation.
Indeed, you are not emulating. You're, just to be clear, you're not emulating the perfect example set by Muhammad that every Muslim should follow. So we appreciate that, but perhaps the Muslims in the chat will not be so appreciative, since obviously we are inferior, perhaps the worst of all creatures, because we don't believe that this is a good example that Muhammad had set. In case you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to be talking about Muhammad being covered in semen today. A number of years ago, David had a series of videos called Fun Islamic Facts, and one of those was scrubbing Muhammad's semen stains. Yeah. While I was looking for some unrelated material, YouTube recommended me a video of a Muslim who made a response to this video. Now, in fairness, they made their response several years ago. It's not like brand new, but naturally, I had to click on it and see what they had to say. And it was so bad, so hilarious, that I had to have David on to respond to that. One other thing, just a quick note. On Saturday, I was live streaming, and some Muslims managed to shut the video down with some false flags. There will be a response to that, but it will be a careful, calculated, proper response, which will take some time to prepare. So that will not be today. Welcome, David. Anything you want to say other than that you're not covered in semen, of course?
Nope. Just sending out this. I'm not goofing off playing video games. I'm sending out the link to just send it out on YouTube and private community and now Twitter, because we want everyone to see the powerful Muslim response to our charges of Muhammad constantly being covered in semen.
I think that you're going to all be blown away by the amazing logic of this individual, which I believe his name is ABM Reacts. Never heard of him, tiny little channel, but and in fairness, he also has stopped making videos since he made this. I guess he wasn't getting enough traction, but this particular video did have several thousand views. Apparently, there were a number of Muslims searching for a response to this, and so it got some interest. Gordon says, for some reason, watermelons have tripled in price during Ramadan, or perhaps that's ram it down. I wonder why that might be. Why would food prices, or in particular watermelons, surge during Ramadan?
I don't know. Watermelon's kind of on the healthy end of the spectrum. What are they doing eating that?
Well, I think it's a joke in reference to...
Yeah, I know. It's the whole Palestine thing. I get it.
But yeah, I think Muslims are mostly eating the fattest food they can find.
Yeah, they're not, trust me, they're not. Matter of fact, some of the pictures I've shared where the guys are like passed out on the floor, there's a big bowl of fruit there. Fruit hasn't been touched. No one touches the fruit.
Jesus Bot says, I want to be covered in and by the Holy Spirit. Yeah, that's a little bit better. A little bit
better than what Muhammad was covered by.
Indeed. All right, so we're going to start off by watching David's original video. It's only a couple minutes long. The Fun Facts series was short videos. So we're going to start by watching that. And then after we've watched that entire thing, then we'll get the amazing, fantastic response that will show that David is nothing but a complete fraud who doesn't understand anything about the glorious religion of Islam.
Hey, wait. How's this tweet? Let me see. I have to read it out loud. I'm live with Reasoned Answers discussing a powerful Muslim response to our claims about Muhammad's child bride having to clean his never-ending supply of semen stains. That sounds good. All right, we're good.
All right. Let's see what he has to say.
Welcome to Fun Islamic Facts.
That brings back
where I
memories.
share fun facts about Muhammad and the Quran whenever jihadis go on a killing spree. In Fun Fact number 8, we learned that Muhammad enjoyed having sex with all 9 of his wives in one night. Not surprisingly, rushing from wife to wife,
He's a real man.
sex marathons would leave Islam's patron saint of sex addicts covered in semen.
And she found a stain on your blanket.
Stain on my blanket, huh?
Muhammad's child bride Aisha, who's called the mother of the faithful in Islam, was honored with the never-ending task of scrubbing Muhammad's semen off his clothes.
Ugh.
What kind of stain was it?
Ejaculate.
What?
Ejaculate.
Ejaculate.
Not ejaculate, ejaculate.
Sahih al-Bukhari, number 232, narrated Aisha, I used to wash the semen off the clothes of the Prophet, and even then I used to notice 1 or more semen spots on them. Sahih Muslim, number 669. It was narrated that Aisha said concerning semen, I used to scratch it from the garment of the Messenger of Allah. Sunan ibn Majah, number 537. It was narrated that Aisha said, I often scraped it, semen, from the garment of the Messenger of Allah with my hand. Aisha was especially careful to wash the semen off Muhammad's clothes when he was heading to the mosque for prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari, number 230. Narrated Suleiman bin Yasser, I asked Aisha about the clothes soiled with semen. She replied, I used to wash it off the clothes of Allah's Messenger, and he would go for the salat, prayer, while water spots were still visible. So, when Muhammad's followers saw wet spots on his clothes at the mosque, they knew that he'd gotten covered with semen during his nightly sexcapades with 9 women and girls, and that his child bride, the mother of the faithful, had carefully washed away the semen so that he would be pure before Allah. Welcome to Islam, the only religion whose followers are so obsessed with their prophet's bodily fluids that they just can't stop sharing stories about his child bride dedicating her life to scrubbing his semen stains.
All right. So that is the original video there.
Hey, you know, it's funny. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that in years. But when we sat down for this show and we start talking about Muhammad's semen, what popped into my head was Ernest from the Ernest movies going, ew. But it's just funny because I don't remember I inserted those into the video, which is that's what popped into my head. So it must have been the exact same reaction back then. Ew. Oh, let me put those movie clips in there. Classic. Classic.
Yaffle said, who's the narrator of this video? I don't know. Maybe that was a serious question, but that was clearly David using an alternative voice. Cheeky says, Ernest does Hajj. Could be.
Classic. Oh, man.
Indeed.
I'm trying to think of who could actually play Ernest in something like that. We have no one that could do it. He's just an original looking dude. Mike Winger might be able to because he's weird enough, but
good. Next, Zucker Nike says, are you sure that David isn't covered in semen just because he said he wasn't? Well, we don't have a hadith chain, so I'm not sure how reliable it is because you got to pass it through a dozen oral translators before you write it down. That's the most reliable way to get to the truth. So we'll just have to take his word for it, I guess. Such a shame. So I presume you probably have never seen the response video, but you no doubt have at least heard Muslims try to make responses and comments and such. What are some of your favorite responses that you see?
The only response I ever get is Muhammad was just too poor So he had nowhere else to wipe all his semen other than his garments, the one he wore to the mosque. And it's like, wait a minute, this guy's getting a fifth of the spoils of war, and it never occurs to anyone to either buy a rag or to just like take a rag from the spoils of war and have like a semen rag for when he gets semen all over him. But you know what, Thaddeus, I'm just gonna point it out here. When we bring up things like Muhammad and Aisha, so we point out Muhammad had sex with a prepubescent 9-year-old girl. And when they say, what? Why would you say something like that? We quote dozens and dozens of sources to them. Their response, in addition to defending child marriage eventually, first their first response is lying. Then they try to defend child marriage, which will also involve lying. But then they'll start saying, but Rebecca was 3 and the Catholic Encyclopedia says Mary was 12. And they'll say all these things, which are flat out lies. And so it's just interesting that we're saying something that is true about their religion. And the response is, well, if you say something true about Muhammad, we'll lie about people in the Bible. Even though we claim to respect those people in the Bible, we will actually respond by lying about the people we claim to respect. And we'll just accuse all of them of being pedophiles, because that's how we roll in Islam. So anyway, long story short, been thinking about how to deal with this little problem, namely that we share facts about their religion and they respond by lying. How do we deal with that? Because we don't want to encourage lying in response. Yes, I exaggerate. Yes, I joke. Sometimes I'm joking or exaggerating or something like that. But I'm not just gonna lie. I'm not just gonna lie about Islam or encourage people to just lie. So it's a tricky situation because they'll lie. They'll lie to support their religion. They'll lie to attack our religion. And we can't, as followers of the truth, encourage lying in response. But what I can say, and I'll eventually make a video about this, is we cannot give them the benefit of the doubt when they give their responses, right? So we can always say, look, you're asking us to give you the benefit of the doubt in this, and we're not anymore. We're not. We're going to go with the worst possible interpretation of the evidence, right? So on an issue, how this would work on an issue like Muhammad's semen stains, what does it actually seem like in the Muslim sources? Well, it doesn't say. It just sounds like Muhammad's gross and he uses his own clothes that he wears to the mosque as a semen rag. Okay, that's disgusting. It's enough. It's disgusting enough to say this guy was really, really gross. Definitely should not be imitating this guy. And if you do imitate this guy, please keep like 10 feet of distance between you and me, because I don't want to get too close to you if you think it's perfectly acceptable. And a great pattern of conduct to have semen all over your clothes. So the most charitable interpretation is just Muhammad's this gross dude who uses his clothes as a semen rag and just doesn't care. Okay, that's the best one. There are other interpretations, like that semen is actually Dihya al-Kalbi's semen. That's a guy who looked like the archangel Jibril. And so he apparently looks like Jibril. So Muhammad would be hanging out with Dihya al-Kalbi at his house, and his wife's like, hey, what's Dihya doing here? And he goes, oh, no, that's the angel Gabriel coming out of my room, ladies and gentlemen. It's the angel Gabriel who's in here apparently getting semen all over my clothes. So we could interpret it that way. And that's giving the benefit of the doubt that we're assuming it's human semen and not like goat or camel semen or donkey semen or something like that, right? So anyway, the point is, there's a mystery of semen all over Muhammad's clothes. That's the data that we have to go on. How we interpret that data is up to us. And if the people we're talking to are people who will not hesitate to lie about Abraham, Isaac, Mary, Jesus, just instantly will not hesitate to lie about them, maybe we shouldn't be giving the benefit of the doubt on anything. Muhammad has semen all over his clothes. Great. It's either his buddy banging him, or it's a goat or a donkey or something like that. And guess what, guys? This sounds gross, but I don't know how else do you respond to people who are just compulsive chronic liars?
And we do have Fazlin Ahmed in the chat proving you right, saying, no, Rebecca is 3. Even Rashi says it.
Great. Rashi.
Which, first of all, I'm pretty sure Rashi didn't say that. Now, some Jewish rabbis did, and Muslims didn't quite invent this nonsense. But all you have to do is read the biblical text to see what a ridiculous
total nonsense
is.
And it's just amazing that, you're bound by anything a rabbi has ever said. Really? Am I? Am I? I didn't know that. I didn't know that was something I had to say. And if so, why that rabbi? Why not a rabbi who says she was 10? Why not a rabbi who says she was 14? Why not other rabbis? But notice what they do. They'll zero in on something. They guess what? It would have been really easy for people to refute me and say, what? She was 3. Look right here, Genesis chapter such and such, verse so and so says it right there. They can't do that. So they have to justify their lies some other way. So that's how we're rolling now. Get used to it. I'm gonna make a whole video about not giving the benefit of the doubt. So when it says Muhammad was in Aisha's garment or in Aisha's dress, and they say, this is just a kind of euphemism for being in her bed or something like that, or in her house, or no, we're going to assume that he was actually prancing around in his child bride's nightie, and we are not giving an inch on that. That's the only possible interpretation that we're going to grant. Why? You guys are compulsive liars, and it's getting old. And now we'll show everyone how to respond to that nonsense.
So Black Angel says the semen is the revelation. Could be. And Zayed Al-In, a Muslim here, says, if you criticize the Islam religion, you will get psychological oppression for nonsense hardship situation you are getting. Thanks. Thanks for that warning.
Psychological oppression? Better go back in time, sport.
Indeed.
Who ate the apple?
Yes, who did?
By the way, isn't it funny? You got Muhammad, whose first impression of his revelations was that they were demonic, and he becomes suicidal and tries repeatedly to hurl himself off a cliff. And then it's his wife and her cousin who convince him, no, you're actually a prophet. And then so, whoa, I'm a prophet. Now I'm getting revelations. Then the revelations stop, and he runs out and tries to kill himself again because now the revelations stop, and he believes he's a prophet, and he thinks Gabriel's mad at him. And then this guy eventually thinks that he's a victim of black magic that gives him delusional thoughts and false beliefs. And when you read how he received his revelations, how his skin would turn red and he would start to fall on the ground and start sweating, even if it was winter. And these guys are warning us about psychological oppression. That dude was straight mental.
Yeah, as usual, there's a lot of projection going on.
Who ate the apple?
People are demonstrating that they know that I have an animation that they can trigger that says, who ate the apple? Jack Gray says, share the apples. It's a channel inside joke for those who don't normally watch. Just explaining what's going on for you there. All right, so let's go ahead and load up that Muslim response video and see his amazing response. He titled his video Debunked, Scrubbing Muhammad's Semen Stains. So since he titled it Debunked, we know that this is definitely a debunking.
That's the rule. That's the rule in Islam. As long as you say that this debunks that, and you pronounce words after it, then it's been debunked.
Exactly. That's the criteria. You have to say something, and preferably while thumping your own chest about how awesome your argument is.
That makes the argument even stronger.
Indeed. A very important criteria, not 100% required, but recommended that you go through that additional step of saying how great your argument is, because then everyone will know that even if you say the exact same thing as the person you are debunking, that you have totally won the argument. Like Muhammad Hijab's famous example, where all the Muslims tell us that he destroyed you and won that debate when he was in fact agreeing with you. But since he thumped his chest really hard and said he was teaching a free Arabic lesson, that's all they remember.
That is interesting. That is all they remember. That's fascinating because it was a big long debate, but like probably 80% of the time when they say something from that debate, it's like, oh, do you need another free Arabic lesson like Muhammad Hijab gave you? And it's and then I just post, I go, I said Muhammad prays for Muhammad. Hijab respond, I'll give you a free Arabic lesson. It's not to Muhammad, it's for Muhammad. And then
Who
thunderous
ate the
applause.
apple?
Thunderous applause. That moment was, and then all the Muslims afterwards who still use it was extremely I did not know it was this bad. I did not know you could just completely agree with someone, say the exact same thing. Like, I didn't know you could completely 100% rely on chest thumping. I didn't know. I don't know, because I mean, it's Zakir Naik. He's saying stupid things, but he's actually trying to make points. And I understand someone who's completely ignorant not understanding that what he's saying is complete nonsense. So I understand that. So it seemed to be a mixture of deception and chest thumping and just terrible information. I did not know until the new generation of Dawa guys came along that you could just completely agree with someone. You can say the complete opposite of what Islam said. It doesn't matter as long as you, I refuted you. They just don't get it. And you cannot explain it to them. It's amazing. It's amazing. Islam does something.
All right, so let's get a little bit of this video. I'll pause it periodically to get your thoughts on it, but without further ado, here we go.
How you guys doing?
I'm good.
Welcome back to my channel. And,
is this his video? He has a Dragon Ball Z thing on here?
You all know we're refuting the fun Islamic facts.
Hey, he's trying to be like me because I got One Punch Man. He's like, oh, I'll go with Dragon Ball Z. Come on, dude.
Of his clothes.
Oh, wait. You might want to rewind that because I interrupted him. I'm sorry. I want people saying
it was just an intro. He just said, I'm going to be debunking this video.
Oh, okay. I don't want people to be like, oh, you spoke over the most important part where he destroyed your argument.
So Alexander, I do have a soundboard. I have all kinds of things that I can trigger. For example, just pushing a random one. Let's do something weird.
Don't go too far. Look inside yourself. Take a look at your organs.
Okay.
So that's in my category of strange things, which I'm going to try to find ways to incorporate, even though they're not like relevant at all. So they all, coincidentally or not, are Mufti Menk. He says a lot of strange things. All right. Anyway, let's see the argument. So he just introduced, say what he's going to do.
But I have changed my tactics. So as you saw my videos before, I used to drop the refutation after his videos end. But now we're going to play his video. If he makes a point, we're going to stop the video, refute that point, and get back to the video. We're going to do it until the end of the video. So do not skip. And this video doesn't have the full detail of what he's trying to say. So I have to get back to another video to show what he is trying to say. So let's start.
In fun fact number 8, we learned that Muhammad enjoyed having sex with all 9 of his wives in one night.
Yeah, well, the story that you're talking about, having sex with 9 wives at the same night, yeah, that didn't happen. I've refuted you already on that, and if that is your logic of this video, then your video ends before it starts.
All right, so we'll get to what his debunking of your previous video was here in just a second. But even if he had debunked you on Muhammad having sex with all of his
pretty
wives,
irrelevant to this video.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Does that change your point at all?
No. But let me so we can get to his response later. I just want to point out this. I'm already like it's a weird situation where I can just quote hadiths and say, oh, look at this, and then Muslims, you liar, haha, we've refuted you. And it's like, guys, look, if you want to say you've refuted Bukhari or something like that, or you've shown that Muslim sources can't be trusted and that they were written by compulsive liars, say that. Don't say I'm lying when I quote your sources. But I'll just let me read these real quick. These are the ones I normally go to, all from Bukhari. But Sahih al-Bukhari 5068 narrated Anas, the Prophet used to go around, have sexual relations with all his wives in one night, and he had 9 wives. Sahih al-Bukhari 5215 narrated Anas bin Malik, the Prophet used to pass by, have sexual relations with all his wives in one night, and at that time he had 9 wives. Sahih al-Bukhari 268 narrated Qatada. Anas bin Malik said, the Prophet used to visit all his wives in a round during the day and night, and they were 11 in number. I asked Anas, had the Prophet the strength for it? Anas replied, we used to say that the Prophet was given the strength of 30 men. And then you have Sa'id on the authority of Qatada that Anas told him about 9 wives only, not 11. And so this is where they get the idea that Muhammad had the sexual strength of 30 men from him going around banging 9 wives in a night.
All right. So fair enough. Now here is the hadith which he used to destroy you on this particular point from Sunan Abu Dawud 2135. It was very rare that he, Muhammad, did not visit us any day. He would come near each of his wives without having intercourse with her until he reached the one who had her day and passed his night with her. Now, and when he reads this, he stops right here. He would come near each of his wives without having intercourse. You see, he did not have intercourse with his wives. And then he goes on to say that all of the narrations you quoted all come from Anas, and Anas was just wrong, which, I mean, he could be wrong, but notice a Muslim could say that about literally any hadith they don't like, right? They could say, whoever is narrating this is wrong. And that counts, apparently, as a refutation. We shouldn't take, Bukhari's judgment. We shouldn't take hadith science seriously. We should just look at them and say, yeah, they could be wrong. Therefore, they are refuted. He actually puts up on his screen about Bukhari, this is a false narration. Now, since we respect their sources and treat Islam more seriously than Muslims do, how could we reconcile these two hadith without resorting to saying one of them is false?
Oh, I mean, it's pretty easy. You could say, here's his normal practice, but he had times when he would go around and bang all his wives in one night.
Indeed, right? They're reported different days.
Yeah. And it's just, I mean, generally, so our point is that these are entirely reconcilable, right? Like Aisha could say, it was very rare that he did not visit us any day, and so on. He would visit all of us in a day. Then he would spend the night with a particular wife. You can say that and say that, oh yeah, there were times when he would also come around banging all of us. And so it's just weird though that if you wanted to say there was a conflict, like if Sunan Abu Dawud and Sahih al-Bukhari were in conflict, and not just one reference in Bukhari, but multiple references in Bukhari, the vast majority of Sunni Muslims would say if you have multiple references in Bukhari and something in Sunan Abu Dawud that goes against it, then you would obviously go with the multiple references in Bukhari. But it is funny because the chapter heading of one of the hadiths is this. So this is the chapter heading for Sahih al-Bukhari 52:15. Whoever had sexual intercourse with all his wives and then took one bath only. So it says this hadith is about someone who's having sex with all of his wives in one night and just taking one bath. So it's another situation where, I've refuted you. And what you really mean is I'm just going to toss out all the sources that say things I don't like.
And I will point out that although this hadith is considered reliable, it is graded Hasan Sahih, which would be a lower grade than Sahih. And of course, you should go with the more reliable one when there's a conflict. But I don't think there is a conflict.
No, I wouldn't say there's a conflict. And
I'll also point out that although the ones you usually quote do come from Anas, that he is the source of all of those, I found another Bukhari, this one's 2070, where it comes from Aisha. So here we have Aisha said, I sent it Allah's messenger, and he went around, had sexual intercourse with all his wives. And in the morning, he was mumrem after taking a bath. Consistent with him taking one bath. So he goes around, she puts perfume on him. He goes around, has sex with all his wives. In the morning, he takes a bath, and he still smells really good. That's what she's saying. or claiming anyway. So it seems that Aisha agrees that Muhammad at least sometimes goes around and has sex with all his wives. But because this point, which isn't really related to being covered in semen, you just mentioned it as an aside in your introduction, you have been destroyed. None of your points matter because you're wrong about this, because Bukhari is wrong, I guess.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, for the sake of intellectual charity here, I do leave the position entirely open. If Muslims want to say, I do not trust these, I do not trust the hadiths, they're from much later, we can't trust them. So I debated Kenny Bomer on the age of Aisha. Now, the weird part is you'll have Sunni Muslims trying to deny what's in their most reliable Sunni sources, and I'm just not letting you get away with that. But I did grant, if you want to say we can't trust the hadiths, our sources are garbage, they're written by compulsive liars who are making things up left and right, and we can't trust them, I totally grant that. So if you wanted to throw out the story of Aisha because it comes from the hadiths, and you're just going to throw out the hadiths, and you want to toss out these stories about Muhammad having sex with 9 or 11 women in the same night, and you want to throw those out and say we can't trust these sources, they're late, our sources are garbage, our hadith compilers were liars, if you want to say that, totally fine. So you can get rid of all this information and say it's just untrustworthy, but the cost is, don't tell us that you know anything about your prophet, because if your sources are garbage and they're written by people who are making stuff up left and right, don't tell us that you're getting valuable information about Muhammad from those same sources when it's convenient for you.
Mm-hmm. And by my estimation, 80 to 90% of Islamic doctrine comes from the hadith. So it is a major problem. Mm-hmm. Now, I do often, when Muslims say stuff like this, I often agree. But like, yes, I agree. Your sources are garbage. They're not reliable history. Why are you a Muslim exactly? Mm-hmm. So you can go either way, right? I'm willing to say that the hadith are not all that reliable. They're not necessarily real history. But then you lose most of what we call Islam. So what you can't do is just pick and choose the ones you like, and those ones are reliable, and the ones that you don't like are not reliable. That's the position I won't allow you to take. All right, so let's get back to this video, see if he actually has a real point for his second amazing refutation.
Not surprisingly, rushing from wife to wife during his sex marathons would leave.
Muhammad was constantly covered in semen. Yeah, I said it. Don't trust me, trust his child bride, Aisha. Sahih al-Bukhari 232, narrated Aisha. I used to wash the semen off the clothes of the Prophet, and even then I used to notice one or more spots on them. Sahih Muslim 669. It was narrated that Aisha said concerning semen, I used to scratch it from the garment of the Messenger of Allah. Sunan Ibn Majah 537. It was narrated that Aisha said, I often scraped it, semen, from the garment of the Messenger of Allah with my hand. Sahih al-Bukhari 230. Narrated Suleiman bin Yasser. I asked Aisha about the clothes soiled with semen. She replied, I used to wash it off the clothes of Allah's messenger, and he would go for the salat, prayer, while water spots were still visible. Muslims of the world, why was your prophet always covered in semen?
Constantly? Always? Where did you find this always? In fact, his last hadith from Sunan Ibn Majah 537 suggests otherwise. The report contains that she said rubbama, meaning that it was a rare occurrence. That means it didn't happen every day. It was a rarely occurring thing. And
hey,
kind of
go ahead and pause it. Go ahead and pause it there.
Yeah, I was about to. So this is his first refutation, is that you say he's constantly covered in semen, but it's not constantly. It's only sometimes.
Yeah. So notice he's saying that this actually means rarely. This actually means rarely. Hey, where'd the video go?
Oh, I stopped sharing it, but I'll bring it back up. No problem.
Yeah, it's right there on the screen. He's saying this means rarely, when his response should be to the translator of, so look at the translation there. It was narrated that Aisha said, I often scraped it. Now notice, it's I often scraped it. We have all these hadiths about her washing it off and still seeing water spots, and he's heading to the mosque, and so there's a whole situation where she's trying to wash it off, and then there are these other situations where she scrapes it or scratches it. But here she says, I often scraped it. And so it's another situation where, just as I mentioned, like I can quote their sources and they'll say whatever the reason for dismissing the sources, they'll call me a liar and you've been destroyed, David. When, wait a minute, I'm just quoting your sources. Here, the translators for Darussalam, by the way, the same guy who translated the Halali Khan edition of the Quran, which is what's distributed to pilgrims during the Hajj, that guy interprets this as often scraped it. Our random YouTube Dai says no, it means rarely, very, very rarely. All right. Don't tell me. Go tell the translators for Darussalam. Go tell them.
Mm-hmm. I had a comment like that on a video, which I tweeted about yesterday, where a Muslim told me that the translations, which of course I'm just quoting the accepted authoritative, well, maybe not authoritative, but the commonly accepted translations made by professional Muslim translators for the use by Muslims. I'm just quoting those. He said, those are wrong. You would know this if you had even a very basic understanding of Arabic. To anyone watching this, just go ask your Arabic speaking Muslim friend, and they will tell you how all these professional translators have no clue what they're talking about. Weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
weird stuff.
So here's to his actual point, right? Whether it's often or rare, I don't find this to be much of a defense. He says, oh, David, you've been refuted. He wasn't constantly covered in semen. It was only 1 hour a day, or it was only 1 day a week.
Yeah, I just admitted, like right when we were starting, it was like, yes, I exaggerate, or yes, I make fun of things or joke about things. This is an ongoing issue where people don't understand sarcasm. They don't understand hyperbole. They don't understand lots of things. And so, like, I'll make a comment at one point. Wow, this is a really powerful argument for Islam. I'm really, my mind is blown by this. And people start sending me messages. David, no, it's not a good argument. You shouldn't be taking this seriously. Please don't come. Like, what are you talking? You seriously think that the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life, and I make fun of it by saying, wow, this is a really persuasive argument, and take me seriously. So this is an ongoing issue. But yeah, for the sake of this guy, if he's ever watching, yes, when I say constantly, I don't literally mean that Muhammad 100% of every day was walking around completely covered from head to toe in semen. If that helps you, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, when Aisha says she often scraped it, she had to scrape it, she had to scratch it. Aisha, the semen scratcher, the semen scraper, I had to wash it. And even after I would watch it, I would see more. Oh, I'm scrubbing it. Oh, there's more. Okay, I'm going to describe that as, why is this guy constantly covered in semen? Is gross. Get used to it.
It's called hyperbole, and I think it's highly appropriate because any amount of time you spend covered in semen, unless it was literally a one-time occurrence, I would say could definitely qualify as constantly compared to a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
Just my opinion, though. Just my opinion. So a couple of people comment that the video audio is lower. Yes, I realize that now. It's actually the video itself that has really low audio. I could have boosted it if I would have thought of that in advance, but I did not. So.
Yeah, that happened. That's pretty regular, just so everyone knows that. So I know, yeah, when I pull up videos, I usually have to download them and then adjust the volume and so on, because if it's a low video, you can't do it while you're live. If it's it'll still be too low. So yep. So anyway, live with it, guys. Live with it. There are worse problems in the world.
Yeah, just listen carefully. Just listen carefully, and you'll be good. Let me take one of these super chats before we continue. First one was from Jack Ray long ago.
And Allah will bless you in a million ways. You find the tree will grow and you will have lots and lots of wealth. This is the example that we gave to the children. And I'm letting you know that when you sow that seed by giving, you shall receive much more than you gave by the will of Allah. Give as much as you can, for indeed you will reap much more than you have sown.
Can we not talk about sowing seed when we're in a discussion about Muhammad's never-ending semen stain?
What an appropriate comment there. Thank you very much for that donation, Jack Ray. He just said tick time to rock. He gave that right as we were starting. All right, let's see his next refutation. So his first was it's not actually constantly. All right, let's see what the next one is.
And accidents always happen. And look at the picture. He says constantly covered with semen. English is your first language and you forgot the meaning of covered. Seriously. Bro, you just read 3 hadiths. One of them specifically says that 1 or more water spots, not covered with semen. It's pretty clear that you don't know the difference between covered and a few spots. Let me give you a thing, yeah? Suppose you...
So his second refutation here is that he's not covered. There are some parts of his garment that have no semen on them.
So his response is, David, he's only partly covered in semen. So you've been refuted when you said he's covered in semen. Okay.
Yeah.
You got me there, sport. I've been forced to acknowledge that I don't actually believe that 100% of Muhammad's body and clothes were covered in semen. I don't believe that it was 100%. That would be how I would talk. If some guy walks in, he's got semen here and semen here and semen on his back. I said, dude, why are you covered in semen? If his response is, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, I'm covered in semen. What do you mean? I got semen here, and semen back here, but there's no semen right here. There's no semen right here. So how are you saying I'm covered in semen? I would still say you're covered in semen, dude. Just like if Aisha's like, oh, and I'd scrub this and I'd scrub that and I'd still see more. And I'd scrub that and I'd scrub that and I'd still see more. All right. I described that as covered in semen. If anyone has a problem with exaggeration or hyperbole, that's your issue, not mine.
So VP said, accidents happen? What you say, bruv? So I don't know. You used your imagination how Muhammad accidentally got semen in multiple places in his garment. As our friend ABM says, he says, the hadith even says 1 or more spots, not 1 spot. So apparently at least 2 spots of his garment had distinct semen stains from different incidents, as near as I can tell. But he wasn't covered. He wasn't covered. Only like maybe 5% of his garment actually had semen on it.
We don't know. Could be 5%, could be 10%, could be 20%, could be 50%. We don't know. There's just a lot of semen all over Muhammad. So we'll go ahead and grant that. Happy to go ahead and grant that. We will. I will acknowledge here again. I do not believe that Muhammad was 100% drenched in semen. He just had, well, way more semen all over him than I would ever expect anyone to have, since I've never seen anyone was just walking around with semen all over him.
True. I mean, yeah. I've literally never seen anyone have this problem.
Hey, Thaddeus, since you always have these Muslims in the chat and you invite them to join you live and then they instantly start sharing gay porn, maybe you could ask them if that's a common thing in their gay porn films that they all have on their computers, because they take all these, because they try to share it when they go live with you. Ask them, is that a situation where someone gets covered in semen? Because I'm trying to think of situations where someone would get covered in semen. The stories that Muslims are giving to explain this don't really fit, so it leaves open some interpretations. And yep, creepy stuff.
Ocean Mist has the definitive answer. Apparently, it's 53.7%.
Okay,
there you go.
We have done the math and we have established that it's 53.7%.
And FKSKF says Muhammad, peace be upon him, was full of semen. Mashallah.
So wouldn't surprise me.
All right, he's now going to give an example of what the word covered means. So we'll have to sit through that before
I keep forgetting to make this video because it's so easy. It would take literally 2 minutes to record. I wanted to read I'm just saying it so that I remember it. Guys, remind me of this if I don't do this in the next couple days, because it'll be a short, little, easy Twitter video. Just want to put up the source, read it about the dude that Muhammad pulls his dress up for so this dude can smooch him all over his milky white flesh, and then just put on the screen 20 minutes later. Hey, Muhammad is covered in semen. I had to scrape it off. That'd be perfect. Classic. Classic.
There you go. Indeed. As you said, it wasn't necessarily his semen. All right.
Spilled 2 or 3 drops of tea on your shirt. Is it all over your shirt? Or are you covered with tea? Are you? The answer is no. It's the same case. And how can you say
No, you could, dude, you could. Anyone could say that. If you walk in and again, you've got some tea. That's what he said, tea. If you got some tea, if you got some tea here and some tea here and some tea on your back, and I go, dude, what are you covered in tea? Why are you covered in tea? What kind of dumb response? The correct response is, let me explain to you where all this tea came from. The correct response is, what? I'm not literally covered from head to toe in tea. I just got a lot of tea all over me. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? It was like, no, dude, the point is, why are you covered in tea? That's it. Where's all this tea coming from? What? Well, if I interpret you hyper literalistically, we're not talking about that, dude. And this is what this guy's, my goodness, what are we dealing with here, man? My prophet's only got semen all in various places on him, but not 100% covered. Come on, David. welcome to Dawa, ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed, if someone spilled their glass of tea on me, I would probably say, "What are you doing? You spilled tea all over me. I'm covered in tea." And he couldn't.
What? It's not all over you.
Leg, it's not all over you.
That was powerful, man. That was powerful.
All right. I think we're gonna get his next argument now.
When it's only 1 or 2 drops, do you even know how much semen would it take to cover up a shirt?
No, I don't. I don't. Why don't you tell me, buddy? You guys are the experts, apparently. You guys and your prophet. Isn't this wild? I should do a tweet about this. It's like, hey, convert to Islam. It's all about the worship of the one true God. It's all about pure monotheism. You open your sources: semen, child brides, rape, eternity deflowering virgins.
But as he points out, 1 load of semen is not that much material. So you would have to have a lot of different loads of semen to be covered in it, or even for that matter, just to have 1 or more spots that Aisha has to scrape off. I think that he's kind of making your point for you, that a small amount in the case of semen is definitely covered.
Yep.
All right.
No, he's not helping himself here.
As charitable as possible, because I'm a charitable kind of guy, I can only conclude that your prophet would have sex with 9 women and girls in a single night, use his own clothes to wipe off his private parts and possibly his wife's private parts after each round, take 1 bath after the entire 9 rounds, and not wash his clothes.
David, if you really were charitable, you would not even say it. If you actually thought of this...
Hey, go ahead, pause it there.
Yeah, I was about to.
He didn't understand what I mean by charitable, but I specifically by charitable there, it's charitable assuming that this is just him and his wives, and that's how his garment ends up covered in semen. That's being charitable. The uncharitable interpretation would be that it's a bunch of dudes banging him. Dihya al-Kalbi, these are the guys who are skeeting all over him while coming in and banging him, and he's saying, no, it's the angel Gabriel who's in there banging me in my room, something like that. Or goats or camels or who knows what in the world this dude was into. So I'm pointing out that the most, again, if this guy's denying sources and saying this sources can't be trusted, Bukhari can't be trusted, that's fine. You want to throw out your most trusted collections, 100% fine. For the vast majority of Muslims who treat Sahih al-Bukhari as their most reliable source, and we have multiple references within it to Muhammad having sex with all his wives in the same night, then the most charitable explanation is Muhammad's just running around banging and using this garment to wipe himself off afterwards over and over again. And this is where all this semen is coming from. I'm saying that is the most charitable interpretation I can come up with that actually fits the sources. You can deny the sources and come up with something else, or I can not be charitable and come out with a much worse interpretation. But if I take Sahih al-Bukhari and these multiple references to Muhammad having semen all over him, Aisha scratching it off, scraping it off, washing it off. Oh, I wash it off, I see it. No, even after I wash it out, I still see more, and I wash it over and I still see more. The most charitable interpretation I can possibly give to why Muhammad had this semen all over him is he's just using the garment that he wears to the mosque as a semen rag after he bangs all his wives. That's it. That's the nicest interpretation I can give. That's the point. I can give the nicest possible interpretation. You could give a different interpretation if you reject the sources. That's true. You can throw those out. You can say they're garbage. You can say your sources were written by liars. I leave that open to you. For people who actually take these sources seriously, the most charitable interpretation is that Muhammad was so insanely, ridiculously disgusting that he'd go around banging multiple women and using his garment as a semen rag and then wear it to the mosque the next day. That is absolutely disgusting. And that is the best, most charitable, most generous interpretation I can possibly give. That's the guy you're telling us is the pattern of conduct for everyone.
So Francis says, I've got brain freeze after eating ice cream. Doesn't mean my brain literally froze. Islamic logic.
Yes, it does. Your brain didn't literally freeze. It didn't literally
You're
turn
a
into
liar.
it didn't literally turn into ice. Francis, you liar. Liar.
And Icarus says, David, do the Muslim text specify whose semen was on Muhammad's clothes?
Nope.
Nope. And that's why he's being charitable, by assuming that it's his own semen from sexual intercourse, right?
Yeah.
You could make numerous other suggestions, like that he was masturbating, but that's forbidden in Islam.
Yeah, that's the point. And or that he's practicing coitus interruptus or something like that. So he's pulling out and skeeting all over his own clothes. The point is there's no nice interpretation of this that doesn't suggest that Muhammad was like a gross dude walking around with semen all over his clothes. So yeah, pretty creepy. But in addition to that, it's weird that they were just okay with semen being on stuff. There's that other hadith where Aisha, she's talking about some guy who spends the night in her house. So the guy spends the night and she gives him a blanket. And then he says he had nocturnal emissions. Come on. We all know that he whacked off while checking out Aisha's hot butt or whatever. So anyway, so this guy whacks off, gets semen all over his Aisha's blanket that she gives to him to keep warm. And so then he gets up and he washes it because he's embarrassed because he skeeted all over the blanket that Aisha gave him. And she gets mad that he washed it. She's like, why didn't you just scratch it off with your finger? Like I used to do with Muhammad. It's like, wait, one, if I give a dude a blanket, he skates all over, that thing's going in the garbage straight up. Right? So I don't ever want that blanket again, ever. I don't want that blanket around my wife. Don't want that blanket at all. Done with that blanket. Matter of fact, I'll be like, dude, you keep that blanket. You keep that blanket, right? But people will say, oh, things were more scarce back then, so you just can't give up a blanket. Fine. What's your problem with washing it? Like, don't wash it. Just scratch it off. Seriously, there's still be semen residue all on this blanket, even if you scratch it off well. But Aisha was fine with it. Aisha was fine. Oh, well, yeah, I'll wrap up with that cuddly, warm blanket that dude skeeted all over. Oh, my goodness. What is this religion, man?
Indeed. So comment from Houston here. The strange part is that the video maker doesn't think it's sleazy that hadiths about this topic were even narrated. So
who
bit
ate
of
the apple?
foreshadowing unintentionally there. You'll understand why this comment is so funny when he gets to, I think it's his last reason why this is not a problem. But stay tuned for that. And one other comment I wanted to bring up from Jason here. ABM, why is this series called Fun Islamic Facts? These aren't fun. David is a liar. He called it fun when it was not fun at all. It was
I don't
gross.
know. I don't know. It feels kind of fun when I'm sharing this information.
All right, quick super chat from Talmudic Tunnels Construction.
O son of Adam, spend. I will spend on you. Give, then I will give you. It's difficult because you know what? These are my last few. As it is, the price is going up, the rand is going down, this is happening. Excuses. Those are excuses. You give and watch what Allah does.
Thank you for that donation. And remember, no excuses. No matter how little money you have, be sure to generate donations to Gufti Mink's ministry, and Allah will surely repay you. It won't enrich Mufti Mink. No, it'll enrich you. All right, so guys, what if a sperm cell tunes in and it finds out it could be stuck to Muhammad forever? Please be more careful. We got to be sensitive to the sperm cells who might be listening and couldn't bear that thought.
Your viewers, some of your viewers might not know what this is in reference to. This is a reference to apostate Al-Adin, who recently started declaring war on the apostate prophet. But he starts off his videos just with these warnings. Guys, what if a Muslim were coming in and tuning in to watch this video and blah 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 blah. So anyway, so he starts off his videos with content warnings like this may be incredibly disturbing to some people. This may hurt your feelings. So if so, blah blah. So he'll say that, but then he blasts AP. Just imagine if someone came in where you guys are making fun of Muhammad. It would break their hearts, and they would feel so bad. So anyway, that's what this is a reference to.
And Jack Ray said, "How dare you wash the blanket? How dare you indeed." Aisha was looking forward to washing that blanket or something. All right, let's get back to our friend.
Lots of possibilities of getting the semen on the clothes. The first point.
Lots of possibilities, right? Lots of possibilities for getting semen on the clothes. There are lots of different explanations. You're correct, sir.
Indeed. Now he is going to suggest one that he thinks would be more charitable. But as he said, there's lots of explanations, and you certainly didn't go with the worst of the options.
Having sex with 9 wives did not happen. That topic ends right there.
Yeah, it only happened according to a bunch of references in Bukhari, which I've declared are all lies. Ha ha!
Who ate the apple?
Well, strictly speaking, right? He said, strictly speaking, he doesn't say they're lies. He says that Anas made a mistake. He saw Muhammad going to all his wives' houses and just assumed that he was having sex with them when he wasn't.
First of all, bull. We got to cry bull. When they're talking about Muhammad having the strength of 30 men, and they're talking about his sexual strength and so on, it's clear he's clearly not just going and like having a cup of tea with his wives, and they're just drawing this conclusion. If I saw a guy going to 9 different houses, I'm not going to conclude he banged 9 different women. I'm not going to conclude that, because that would be shocking. What are Muhammad's followers concluding? That he's banging all his wives, and that this is a demonstration that he has supernatural sexual strength. I'm saying Muhammad was doing some bragging. That's it. That's how you explain. If Muhammad's followers just saw him going around visiting his wives for a cup of tea, they're not going to conclude that he's going around having sex with them all. That is what they concluded. Where are they getting that information from? If Muhammad and his wives are the only ones in there, and they're concluding that he was banging up, they're getting that information from Muhammad, or they're getting that information from the wives.
And of course, he also narrates that Solomon used to brag about going around and sleeping with 100 women in one night. But he forgot to say inshallah.
Yeah.
But you can see that there's projection going on, right? That Muhammad's saying that all the prophets did this, not just me.
Yeah.
All right. So Fazlin here says, I guess this never happened to you guys because you guys sleep naked. So he does actually correctly anticipate the defense that ABM is going to offer, that it was nocturnal admissions.
Emissions, not admissions.
Yes, I misspoke. I realized that after I said it, but I wasn't going to point out that I misspoke.
Hey, we let you into our school in the middle of the night. It's a nocturnal admission.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, let's go ahead and get it from ABM's mouth.
Charitable interpretation, and you mentioned a thing that is so stupid, like you, of course. You should have said a lot of things except for that. You could have said that from the wet dreams that semen can get on the clothes.
So there you go. There you go. So he says there's a lot of other things you could have said. It could have been wet dreams. Now, what would be the problem with this interpretation?
There's two problems. There's two problems with this claim. So one, you'd be having. How do you have 9 wives, not counting any slave girls that you're having sex with, and you're on top of all that, you're still having wet dreams, right? You shouldn't be having wet dreams if you're having sex, regular sex, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is, assuming that it's wet, I don't understand how this is any better. Muhammad, he keeps his garment on, so he wears his mosque clothes. Whatever clothes he wears, whatever thawb he wears to the mosque, he also sleeps in it. He skeets in it. So keep in mind, where would he be skeeting? He'd be skeeting on the inside of this thing, right? If he's wearing it, he'd be skeeting on the inside of it. And yet, Aisha sees it when he's walking out the door, and she sees it on his all over his thawb. How's it getting all over the outside of it? So okay, so I guess the new theory would be that when Muhammad has his garment that he wears during the day, he comes home at night, he turns it inside out, wears it to bed. He puts it on inside out, has wet dreams, skeets all inside of it, gets up, does not clean it, doesn't change clothes, doesn't grab something else, doesn't wipe up with something else. No. He goes ahead and this wet dream that he just had, he flips his thawb inside, back right side out again. But now the semen is all over the outside of his garment, and oh, hey, let me go head to the mosque now. Okay, that's not better. That is not any better at all than saying he's having sex with his wives and he got semen all over him. He wipes up with his garment. How's that better?
I don't know.
If you have a wet dream and it gets all over your clothes and you wear that to the mosque, how's that any better than you wiped up with after having sex with your wives? How's that? I don't know. But this is the refutation, ladies and gentlemen. So the new interpretation is that in spite of having sex with a lot of women and girls, wives, sex slaves, all that stuff, Muhammad nevertheless still had wet dreams. And when he would have a wet dream, he'd be wearing the same garment that he wears to the mosque, skeets all over himself, gets up, heads straight there, does not bother to wipe out. And Aisha was the clean one. Aisha, who believed you didn't actually have to wash a garment, you could just scratch it off, even if it's some dude. You can just scratch it off, and it's okay to just sit there in that thing. But Aisha is the conscientious clean one. No, hey, Muhammad, you should not be going to the mosque covered in the semen that you ejaculated all over yourself last night during your wet dream. This I've never seen anyone who has this problem in my life. I've been around some of the creepiest, most sickest, perverted dudes. Mental hospital. There are some creepy, insane, messed up people in there. I've never seen. Keep in mind, I'm sure that I can't think of any examples, but I'm sure I've seen an example of a guy who, oopsie, or something like that. I don't know. But for someone to just have this constant ongoing problem of, careful, I have to get this semen off you. Oh, let me scratch it off. Oh, you're heading to the mosque. Let me scrub you real quick. Let me scrub you. Never seen anyone who has this problem. And yet they're telling us this guy's the pattern of conduct for all people. The guy that we all need to mindlessly trust on everything he says is the only person I can think of in history who has this issue of being covered in mystery semen. Just endless supply of mystery semen.
Indeed, as Michael points out here, we don't have our 6-year-old wives scratch it off for us. I mean, your main point isn't how it got there, which is what he's disputing. Your main point is that he's disgusting and is walking around and doesn't see a problem.
That's the point. It's okay. We can list every single possible scenario of how Muhammad gets all this semen all over him. So that Aisha says she often has to get this, she often has to do this. And she has multiple ways of dealing with this semen problem, right? I'm saying, okay, if it's a goat, Muhammad's a disgusting person. If it's camel semen, Muhammad's a disgusting person. If it's a goat semen, Muhammad is a disgusting person. If it's his buddy Dihya al-Kalbi's semen, Muhammad is a disgusting person. If it's that guy who's smooching him all over his body and then the guy just would come over afterwards and skeet all over him, Muhammad is a disgusting person. If Muhammad just likes it, he likes sitting around and having his companions just skeet all over him, Muhammad is
Who
a
ate
disgusting
the
person.
apple?
If Muhammad bangs 9 women and girls in the same night and uses the garment that he wears to the mosque as a semen rag, Muhammad is a disgusting person. If Muhammad has lots of wet dreams and it never crosses his mind to change to a different garment when he's heading to the mosque, then Muhammad is a disgusting person. The point is, there is no scenario where Muhammad isn't a completely repulsive, disgusting person here. And therefore, if there's no interpretation of the evidence where Muhammad isn't a disgusting, disgusting person, then he's not the pattern of conduct that we should be imitating.
Dankworth has refuted you. He said, no need to flip the robe inside out. He had the volume of 30 men and soaked through the thobe. So there you go. Maybe he didn't have to turn it inside out. But notice this is a pattern in Muslim apologetics, that they will take whatever you say, they'll pick one particular word out, they'll dispute that word, and basically concede the actual point, and then say they've refuted you because they disputed a word that you said. You used the wrong word. You should have said he had some semen on him, not that he was covered. I can't believe you lie like this. Amazing, amazing stuff. So,
and by the way, just so everyone knows, I mean, that's the goal, right? It's bring up this issue, get them to respond, because when they respond, the vast majority of any viewers that they have never heard this before, and so they're acknowledging the issue. And so it's good to put the information out there and let them try to respond to it. And at the end of the day, you can say, fine, I'll go ahead and grant your claim that Muhammad was just ejaculating all over himself in wet dreams. You don't think he should actually, change clothes or worn something different if he knows he has this problem, if he knows he does this? And so, again, it doesn't matter what your interpretation is. Muhammad's a gross dude heading the mosque covered in semen and having a child bride rushing to scrape it off. It's nasty. He's a nasty, disgusting person.
Indeed. But hey, he was only sometimes had some quantity of semen on him, and it was from wet dreams. So no, you're totally wrong. So Jack Ray asks, would this creep people out even in prison?
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, I'll defer to the expert on prison.
Yeah.
All right.
If that happened, guys would beat the crap out of him in prison. You would get one warning, dude, wash your freaking clothes. What is wrong with you? They saw him again, they would beat him. They would beat him until he had to go check into protective custody. No one would put up with that. That would be no.
Reed says that we have no intellectual arguments, so we have to resort to ad hominem, at the prophet. Yeah, that's it.
No, that's a completely intellectual argument. I can put this out in logical form. If a man is covered in mystery semen, do not follow him. Premise 2, Muhammad was covered in mystery semen. Conclusion, therefore, do not follow him. That is airtight, modus ponens logic, irrefutable.
Yeah, I mean, all they can deny is the premise, but I think that's a pretty solid premise, personally. One I would agree with, for sure.
Yeah, so if you want it, so you can't deny that Muhammad was covered in semen, unless you go hyper-literalistically, but we can always put it in, hey, if someone just has lots of semen all over him in various times, and so we can change it. But you'd have to reject the first premise. You'd have to say, no, it's okay to imitate someone who's covered in semen. It's a good idea to follow someone who's covered in semen. You have to reject the premise. And that's the point. Your religion forces you to reject basic claims like, hey, if a guy's walking around covered in semen, probably not the best guy to imitate. And what's crazy is at the end of the day, Muslims agree with us. I don't see your Ali Dawah and these guys walking around covered in semen. Why? They're better than their prophet. Wow.
Yeah, when the standards are that low, it's not that hard to be better. But Icarus does have a very good point here.
Prove that we shouldn't follow a man who's covered in semen.
Yeah, you haven't intellectually proven this premise.
This is a good comment.
Yes, from Icarus. I know why Muhammad skeeted on his clothes. Because his clothes were 9 years old.
Hey, just so you know, Icarus, eventually I'm going to steal that, and I won't remember where it came from. I'll just say it, and people will think, wow, David, you're hilarious. That's how I get like half my material is seeing someone else say it, and then I steal it and don't give anyone any credit. But I admit it. I'll admit it in a heartbeat if it gets brought up. So that is funny. Isn't that funny? That could be in a boom boom room. Like, how old are these clothes? 9 years old. Oh, I have to ski on. That'd be funny.
Oh, man. All right, let's see what else. Because he said there's many possibilities, not just wet dreams.
What about the semen that comes out after intercourse?
What about it? What about that last drop? Would it get covered all over you? Multiple spots?
The guy doesn't get it. Just to recap, if you have a wet dream that soils your garment with semen, that's one thing. That's one thing. If you then head out to the mosque in said garment, that's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. If your child bride has to sort of stand guard over letting you outside of the house to try and do something about all the semen all over you. Okay, now we're getting into really, really disgusting territory. But guess what? That's true if it's the semen that comes from wet dreams. That's true if it's semen that leaks out after having after a few minutes of having sex. It's you're left with the same thing. He's a disgusting individual if he's walking around covered in semen, regardless of the source, And what this guy's giving, he's giving the best interpretations of Muhammad's semen stains that he can give. It doesn't change anything. Still disgusting. Yes, there are worse sources of the semen. That's true. It's disgusting no matter what. No matter what the case may be. This is not a guy that anyone should be imitating. And again, Muslims don't imitate him. And Muslims don't imitate it. You don't see Muslims walking around covered in semen. I mean, they might in some parts of the world, something like that. But at least the Muslims I know in the West, you don't say, hey, what's that all over your throat there, man? What is that stuff? Hey, what is that? What is that goop all over you? Wow.
Nicodemus says that D. Wood is a spermaphobe.
Nice. That's a good one, too. I'm going to steal that one.
All right, let's see what his third explanation is.
Or maybe you don't have wet dreams. That's why you don't.
Oh, there was no third. He said there's many, but there are only two.
Sleep naked. Who knows? That's why you don't understand.
Here's what he's listen to what he's just saying, because based on what this guy's saying, it sounds like it would be a problem for him too. I would just love. I wish this guy were asking. He's saying, if you don't see how this could happen, maybe you don't have wet dreams. No, I could have a wet dream every night. This would never happen. If I had a wet dream every night of my entire life, I would still never once in my life get up and walk around covered in semen. It would never happen. The fact that this guy thinks it's normal. Oh, if you have a wet dream, then you walk around with semen all over you. And that's the thing. That's the point. I don't think he really believes what he's saying. I don't think it actually makes sense. He's like, what are you talking about? I walk around semen all the time because I have a wet dream. And then I just walk out and I'm like, oh, look what I did to myself.
Accidents happen.
Accidents happen. They said they don't believe their own responses. They oh gosh, this is weird, man. Dawah is creepy. Muhammad's creepy. Dawah's also creepy.
All right.
And get ready to head to the mosque. And Aisha, the semen scratching child bride, would see the semen stains all over him, so she would stop him and try to scratch off or wash off as much as she could. Muhammad would then go to the mosque with wet spots still visible on his clothes.
Welcome to Islam, the only religion whose followers are so obsessed with their prophet's bodily fluids that they just can't stop sharing stories about his child bride dedicating her life to scrubbing his semen stains.
Can't stop sharing stories because they're obsessed? Bro,
They can't stop sharing stories because they're obsessed. So this is going to get to the argument that I said was foreshadowed earlier, but he's going to say some way that this isn't obsession. What do you think? What do you think that he's going to do, David? This is a hard one, actually, because you can draw on what Muslims usually do, but it's so insane that you probably won't guess what he's going to say.
Let's see. He's gone the hyper literalistic issue. So he's done that. Then wait, what was he just saying?
So he said. So you said that the followers of Muhammad were obsessed with his semen.
Yeah. So I guess he could go super literalistic with that, like well, obsessed. All we have are dozens of hadiths about this. It's not obsessed. It's not like we have millions of them or something like that. So we could go that route. If given my experience, because I have no clue who this guy is. Given my experience, I would guess he would try to go after something in the Bible or the Talmud or something like this. That's also like, oh, that's gross too in the Bible, because that's pretty standard. I don't know.
So you're close. He is going to try to run to the Bible.
Interesting. Shocker, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, let's see.
this is not called obsession. His wife was saying this to answer some people with questions. I do not want to talk about the Bible. Okay, let's talk about the Bible.
Oh, man. All right.
So, it was an obsession. People were just asking Aisha, what should I do when my husband is covered in semen?
Tell us more about semen. Tell us more, Aisha. By the way, can you imagine, like, you got Aisha's smoking hot widow who can't be married anymore, but who knows what's going on behind the scenes? Hey, Aisha. I mean, it sounds like the beginning of like what would be a porn movie or something like that. Hey, Aisha, I have some questions for you about semen. Oh, come right in. Let's have an important discussion. So let me ask. Come on, man. What is this religion?
Yeah, good question. Good question as to why, they're not obsessed. And then now he's going to run to the Bible, and he's actually not going to try to say you find the same thing in the Bible, because he can't. He's actually going to say the opposite, believe it or not. Let's see.
A lot of details about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how his life was, what he used to do, what his wife used to do, what is jaiz, what is not. But on the other hand, the Bible doesn't even say anything.
So this is the line that got me. This is why I had to do this.
The Bible
does not tell you about Jesus' semen. This is a problem with Christianity.
Wait a minute. This says Bible doesn't talk about when Jesus was born. What?
So I stopped it before he starts on his example of how the Bible doesn't say things about Jesus, but he's defending the fact that they talk, right? It's not obsession that they talk about Muhammad's semen, because unlike the Bible, that doesn't say anything about Jesus, well, therefore, if Christianity wasn't corrupt, they would talk about Jesus' semen.
Yeah, so
I think that
is that where he's going? Yeah, back it up a little bit. Let's get his point in all its glory.
Yep.
About the Bible. Okay, let's talk about the Bible. We have a lot of details about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how his life was, what he used to do, what his wife used to do, what is jaiz, what is not. But on the other hand, the Bible doesn't even say anything, even about the birth of Jesus.
He said it doesn't say anything about the birth of Jesus. Wait a minute. This guy just say, because I was assuming I was misinterpreting what he put on the screen there. He just said the Bible doesn't say anything about the birth of Jesus.
Right. We have lots of details about Muhammad. We know all about his semen stains. Meanwhile, the Bible doesn't even tell you when Jesus was born.
So what are those Christmas passages they read every year for Christmas about the birth of Jesus? Where are they getting those? Is that from the lost book of the Council of Nicaea?
I guess. Well, maybe in the true Injil, it doesn't talk about. Oh wait, no, that wouldn't work because they're supposed to believe in the true Injil. Yep, I'm not figuring out a way to save this. Sorry. I think he literally thinks that the Bible doesn't have any information on Jesus. Has so little information that it doesn't talk about his birth.
Wow. These are the guys. These are the guys who are refuting our arguments. They throw out their own sources. They basically acknowledge the real point that we're trying to make, which is that it's gross. Muhammad's walking around with semen all over him. And then they attack the Bible and don't even know what's in there. And their followers know even less, which is nothing. And that's just the way things keep going, day after day after day. Welcome to Islam.
Mr. Drybones, not being charitable, says this guy must have slipped in semen and hit his head. Could be. Maybe he was just trying to follow the example of his prophet. After all, he said, this could happen to me. I don't sleep naked. Maybe you sleep naked. Therefore, I might go around covered in semen by accident. I don't know. Guys. Let's take a super chat from Rick Newton.
Who ate the apple? You ate the apple. The whole apple. Yes, the whole apple. You ate it. But a small seed, you left it. You put it back into the earth. What happened? Allah, through His power, caused that to grow and to give you how many apples? Thousands.
So this is the most popular of my little Muslims asking for money. So far, we've only had Mufti Mank. There are others, but by random draw, we've gotten him 3 times. And this is the most popular, hence the Apple animation that people have triggered a couple times. He's saying that the, paying your zakat, it's just a little tiny seed. You ate the rest of the apple, and then you gave the seed to Allah, and He made it grow and created thousands of apple trees as a result. So if you want to get very wealthy, make sure to pay your zakat. Super chat, Ernest doesn't even like Muhammad. Really, who does? Love the stream, David Wood and Reason Answers. Thank you very much for that. Be sure to like this stream and share it with others so that YouTube will recommend this video to Muslims. I did title it David Wood Refuted. The irresistible clickbait for the Muslim there.
Who ate the apple?
Hopefully we'll get some more Muslims to learn these not actually fun facts about Muhammad, because David lied about them being fun. All right, let's see what else he has to say about the Bible.
You're talking about sharing stories, huh? Do not complain. These kind of complaints does not suit on any Christian's mouth. So stop it. I can't believe that this guy is taken seriously.
He can't believe that we would take a Christian who criticizes Muhammad for being covered in semen seriously. As Christians, we should never criticize anyone about anything. I think that's what he's suggesting. What?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's also part of it, right? That's part of the whole Dawa pretend responses. Someone raises a claim, don't really understand the criticism, say a bunch of words, not really answer the criticism. Criticism escapes completely unscathed. And then the chest thumping, this person's so ignorant. Why would this person be bothered by any of this? It makes no sense. This person is clearly biased. Guys, seriously, you Muslims who are watching, if a guy walks up to you and he says, hey guys, I'm the pattern of conduct for all people, and you're like, hey, what's that all over your clothes? He's like, oh yeah, that's the semen all over me. Sorry, my child bride wasn't there to scrape it off before I headed out. So here I am, semen all over me. You're telling us that would not be a reason. That would be no reason at all not to trust this guy. None, right? None. You see some guy was walking around with semen all over him, and it's because his child bride didn't get all the stuff off him. You're saying there's no problem there. You'd have to be insane to think that's a problem. Are you kidding me? That's a deal breaker. As far as I'm concerned, that's a deal breaker. You walk up to me covered in semen, I don't care what you say. I don't care if you say 2 + 2 is 4. I'm not believing anything you say.
Yep. I have to agree. I wouldn't trust anyone who didn't see a problem with this, which apparently ABM doesn't see a problem, or at least has to pretend he doesn't see a problem, one or the other. So Mont makes a good point here. He says crusty layers of semen all over Muhammad's clothing. So ABM tried to say it was just a couple drops, and we kind of granted that it would still be disgusting, but actually it's enough for Aisha to notice. So it actually does have to be a substantial amount.
And you have Aisha saying that even after she would wash it off, she would still see more. Mm-hmm. So she's like, oh, let me get that off here. And oh, let me get this. Okay, now get this over here. All right. Okay. You can go to the mosque now. You can go, oh, wait a minute. Look at that. And see, oh, I missed that spot right here. Oh, let me get that off, Prophet. And then this guy goes to the mosque and hugs it out with his buddies. Again, I would have a 10-foot rule with that dude. Stay away from me, man. Stay away. You stay over there. You stay over there on that side of the mosque. I'll be over here.
And indeed, and the fact that she's scraping it off does mean it's crusty, which actually implies that it's not recent, that it's been there a while. Because if he had just woken up, found that he had a wet dream, and then ran off to the mosque, it would still be wet, actually. Not to be too graphic here, but I'd say this has to be at least 12 hours old, or else it wouldn't be able to be scraped off. You would have to wash it, which Aisha doesn't want to do. She only wants to scrape it, apparently. Amazing religion here. But, as Christians, we can't criticize because the Bible doesn't tell us anything about Jesus. It's perfectly normal for followers of a prophet to talk about his semen. And we just don't understand that because we have the standard of the Bible, which tells us literally nothing about Jesus, apparently.
In this field, you should throw those PhD and the master's degree in the garbage can and flush it down the toilet, or, burn it. Because it's not working. You call yourself a philosopher. This is your philosophy?
I just want to be clear here. So in philosophy, you could go to a lot of philosophy departments. If I walked into any philosophy department covered in semen, they're going to say, get the heck out of here. We do not trust anything you're saying right now. Do not come in here. Get away from us. We are not interested in any of your arguments, any of your claims. Get out of here. We are not listening under any circumstances to a guy covered in semen. That would be 100% successful anywhere in the realm of philosophy.
Maybe not in the Islamic world. Maybe not. But you see, you have not made a sound philosophical argument because you used language in the typical way that language is used. You used it imprecisely, right? You said covered when not 100% of his body was covered. You said constantly when there were times where there was no semen on his garment. Therefore, you don't understand basic logic, and you have been destroyed and should throw your PhD in the trash can.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that because this guy says it.
All right. I don't think David's going to take that advice, sadly. No, he's not going to throw his degree away, which doesn't actually matter anyway, since you're not working at a university, but just saying. All right. So let's see. One of the super chats, there's a bunch of them. So I'm trying to skip. Jack Ray got a whole bunch. Thanks, Jack. I don't know if I'll play them all, but if I do, it'll be at the end. This one's from John.
Brothers and sisters, why to lose this great opportunity? Remember, when the person is on his deathbed, the last minute, he will ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to be delayed for 1 second to do what? Not to pray, not to do other things, but to give sadaqah, because sadaqah you can give it just like this, in 1 second.
So John wants to know, are we sure that it was the prophet's semen?
No. No, we're not. We're not even
We're being
sure.
charitable, but we're
Yeah,
not
we're-
being charitable according to ABM.
Yeah, we're not even sure if it was human. We have no idea.
Could be anything.
But
And
the
I'm
point,
going to
the
explain why it
point
was
is,
crusty.
yeah, and the point is, it's gross no matter what. He's a gross, disgusting person no matter what.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's the actual argument here, right? That Muhammad was gross, therefore he couldn't be the perfect example of conduct. The refutation is, oh, if you take your words super seriously, you might technically be incorrect. And Christians don't know anything about Jesus, so they're just jealous of Muhammad's semen.
How do you conclude that it happened constantly, every day, always? Come on, man. Stop making yourself look like an idiot, and also your people who thinks that you're right and picks up the same thing you pick up every single time, and they also look like an idiot just like you. You should stop it.
Yeah, David, you should stop it. You should stop informing your gullible followers that Muhammad walked around with semen on his garments, because when you repeat this information, you will look foolish because he wasn't covered. There was at least 50% of the surface of his garment that did not have semen on it.
Yeah, and you, David, your dumb followers, your dumb, stupid followers might get the idea from your videos that if someone walks around covered in semen, he's a gross, disgusting person.
Tara says, scrape it, scrape it, scrape it off.
Scrape, scrape, scrape it off.
All right, I think this might be the last little bit here, and then we'll get some comments from the audience.
It's not for you. So that's the refutation. I have nothing else to say.
Did he say refutation?
As I said, the story.
Yep.
You should stop it. Get a new life. It's not for you. So that's the refutation. I have nothing else to say on this. As I said, the
and then he talks for another 30 seconds.
Aisha cleaning or
wait. By his logic, right? He said, I have nothing else to say on this. Figure of speech, meaning that he's
he says
his
you have
argument,
nothing else to say.
But then he stops for 34 seconds. He refuted himself.
Yeah,
because
I don't know what degrees you have, my friend, but where we come from, if you're being hyper literalistic and you say you have nothing else to say and then you keep talking, you are a chronic liar and should be completely discredited. No wonder you're not posting on your channel anymore. You've been humiliated.
So let's go ahead and get his summary here.
The story of Aisha cleaning or scrubbing the semen, the dried out semen of the clothes of Prophet Muhammad, which is not a common thing. It happened accidentally and very rarely, as his reports.
Often, according to Aisha.
It's true, but the thing that he is trying to portray is extremely, extremely wrong. So that was the point of this refutation. See you in the next video. Wassalamu alaikum.
All right, so that is the end of it there. So you have been destroyed because he had 3 arguments. It wasn't constant. It wasn't covered. And in comparison to the Bible, it's glorious that Muslims know so much information about Muhammad.
Yeah, you're right. You know, Thaddeus, now that he's finished his video and I've been able to really just absorb all of this amazing information from this guy, I acknowledge that I was completely wrong. The greatest pattern of conduct from all history, the guy who has God's stamp of approval, that if you want to be like anyone, be like this guy. That guy, through either nocturnal emissions or wet dreams or just, getting on him after having sex with his wives, it's completely normal to have this semen encrusted on him and be heading to the mosque the next day after it's all dried up and having his child bride rush in to scrape it off with her fingers or to wash it up. I take it all back. That's completely normal. In fact, if I ever see a man covered in semen, I will say this is the pattern of conduct. This must be the Mahdi right here, because the more semen you have all over you, the holier a man you are. And we heard it all and we learned it all from Dawah. Thank you.
I think that is definitely the takeaway from today, that David has exaggerated and therefore there is no problem here. It's not embarrassing. It's perfectly ordinary for men to walk around with semen on the outside of their garments in one or more spots that has dried on there, and then they don't see a problem with it. So their young wife, who knows barely anything, is not able to properly cook dinner, for example, because she is young and immature, as the hadith say. Even she sees a problem here, and she has to rush in and save him from the embarrassment of going to the mosque with semen on his garment. But he's still the perfect example to follow because he allowed her to scrape it off, I think, is the takeaway here. All right, so let's take a couple of these questions and super chats. From Nissan Attic.
Wasting your time on social media is one of the best deeds a Muslim can do. There's a huge need for it. You know this and I know this. So that makes the reward even greater. So give generously and Allah Azza wa Jal will give you even more.
They says it's somnambulatory. He's skeet walking.
Skeet walking.
Very creative there. Yes, thank you for that. Another pun from Houston. He says, this isn't what I thought skeet shooting meant.
That would be funny. Wait, what do you know that semen all over, Cliff? What are you talking about? I said I went skeet shooting. Dude, I thought you meant something else.
Indeed. Super chat from Hector.
And Allah will bless you in a million ways. You find the tree will grow and you will have lots and lots of wealth. This is the example that we gave to the children. And I'm letting you know that when you sow that seed by giving, you shall receive much more than you gave by the will of Allah. Give as much as you can, for indeed you will reap much more than you have sown.
Oh, gosh.
So I actually don't think the audience hears you when that's playing, but he was like,
good.
oh, gross, no more semen, yeah. no more seed.
Yes, when you sow your seed all over our prophet, you'll just have more and more and more seed all over. Oh my goodness, man.
So Hector says, any interesting theories as to why Allah never rebuked Muhammad for being covered in semen?
Yeah, because Allah was Muhammad's sock puppet, and I have to say, given what we know about Muhammad, his socks would probably be covered in semen too.
And we have a new Muslim in the chat here, PS4. What he has learned from this is that Christians are blaming Muslims for the death of their religion.
Hey, quick question, right? So you do have declining numbers of Christians in the West. You have Christianity just booming in other parts, but in the West, do we blame Islam for that? Do we think that has something to do with Islam?
No,
that has nothing to do with Islam. But what's this guy even talking about? These are the guys dealing with the avalanche of apostasy, right? These are the guys dealing with the avalanche of apostasy, where in a period of about 15 years, the apostasy rate of young Muslims went from around 0% to around 24%. It's estimated that between 5 and 10% of people who are counted as Muslims in Muslim countries are actually closet atheists who can't speak about it. These are the situations that they're dealing with. Islam is crumbling from within. Only 40% of people in Iran now consider themselves Muslims. Islam is dying and imploding from within, and that's in places where you still have punishments for apostasy. You can't even, you can force people to keep quiet about it, but you can't stop people from leaving Islam, even with all the various psychological pressures and manipulation that Islam puts on people. They're still leaving Islam, and it's just getting started. If you go from 0% apostasy rate to 24% in 15 years, what do you think happens 15 years in the future? Oh, you think this? But he wasn't 100% covered in semen. You think that's going to help? You think that's going to fix the problem? Come on, dude. Islam is skyrocketing. What planet do you live on, dude? Where have you been? It's not us complaining. It's not us complaining about the avalanche of apostasy. That's their term. That's what your Dawa guys and your scholars are calling it. They're calling it the avalanche of apostasy. Where is Islam skyrocketing? The people who came up with, Islam is the fastest growing religion, that was based on a Pew Research study, which said specifically it's because of high birth rates among Muslims, because Islam doesn't give a lot for women to do except turning them into baby making machines. So they start having babies at 12 and 13 years old. Meanwhile, lots of women in other parts of the world, they go off and they get a career and so on, and they have a couple kids later on and so on. So that's your miracle of the rapid growth of Islam back then was high birth rates, because Islam doesn't give a lot of opportunities to women. And then even that isn't going to save you anymore, because now the apostasy rates are catching up to your high birth rates, and your birth rates are declining. And so, my goodness, dude, just what is it with the chest thumping? It doesn't, like, it's the exact same problem over and over again. They can spout complete nonsense. Islam could be crumbling to the ground behind them, and they'll be, oh, we're so strong, we're destroying all of you. My goodness, dude, grow up, grow up.
So, Sir Dr. Whitemeat said skyrocketing to the 7th ozone layer.
Yep.
I would have to agree with that. Of course, we don't know how many ozone layers there are, because Ali Dali couldn't remember.
Yeah, because some they say there's 5 and then there's 7, but some be saying that there's 6 of the ozone layers. But you go down deep into the water, it get dark down there. This is my mind's just blown. My mind is blown by this. That's Dawa. That is one of your most popular da'is in the world, ladies and gentlemen.
The scientific argument, the scientific miracles of the Quran is debunked.
But yet,
it's got a point.
It's very interesting that it's dark underneath water. I mean, who would know that? Other than anyone who's ever dove into water and opened their eyes. I mean, definitely a miracle that Muhammad knew that it was dark underneath the water. Oh, sorry. I mean, Allah knew, right? Ross says that David needs to make more videos. What do you think, David? Should you make more videos, or should you stop and never make another video?
No, I should give up. The dude told me to give up, so. It's weird he told me to give up, and then he gave up. That's just, I don't know what to make of that.
Fareed says, Christians only have buzzwords, avalanche of apostasy, holes in narrative, so pathetic.
Is this guy joking or not? Because, guys, both of those were by Muslims. It's Bilal Phillips who came up with avalanche of apostasy, and he said it in a context where he's saying, guys, we are not going to be able, if we do not figure something out, we are not going to be able to recover from this avalanche of apostasy. That's what he called it. He called it an avalanche. He called it a tsunami. Holes in the narrative, that came from Sheikh Yasser Qadhi, not from us. And that was when Sheikh Yasser Qadhi is acknowledging that they can't explain all these differences in the Quran as somehow going back to Muhammad. So isn't that amazing? Avalanche of apostasy, holes in the narrative. You Christians, all you've got are these buzzwords that our Muslim scholars gave you. What a joke, man.
Yeah, and he forgot proud of it. I mean, that's definitely a good buzzword.
Well, yeah, Christians just say proud of that like it's a joke. Where'd they get that, dumb Christians?
So we had a great comment here by Icarus. Muhammad only slept with 29-year-olds because he was too tired after the first 20. I like it.
Oh, 29-year-olds. Yeah.
All right, let's take a super chat. This one is from Gurgly.
Who ate the apple? You ate the apple. The whole apple. Yes, the whole apple. You ate it. But a small seed, you left it. You put it back into the earth. What happened? Allah, through His power, caused that to grow and to give you how many apples? Thousands.
Thousands of apples, and you gave 1,000 units of your currency. A coincidence or mathematical miracle? You decide. So thank you for that donation. Muhammad must just know that Aisha is used to touching his semen.
Yeah, she was.
You know who else is used to touching Muhammad's semen? According to Sahih tradition, that would be Muhammad. After he would clean himself off, he would wipe his hands on his walls. And the hadith is explicit that he was wiping off semen. So it doesn't use the word semen, but it definitely uses penis or another word for it. Maybe it says member or whatever. But that he would in order to clean himself, he would use his hands and then he would wipe it on his walls, according to Sahih tradition. So It wasn't only on his garment, is what I'm saying. We have to be fair. Not all of his semen ended up on his garment. Some ended up other places. Several people made puns like this one from Snoopy. His followers were paying the jizz, no doubt. That's how he got covered in semen. Possible. Super chat from Big Rig.
If you want your wealth to increase in this dunya, then give sadaqah more and more every single day. 2 angels come down. One of them is making dua for those who give. He says, Ya Allah, give those who give.
Make sure to give because the angels are watching. Thank you for doing that. Big Rig says, Allah only made it seem like it was semen. Come on, guys.
That's what they should be using as their explanation for everything, right? If you've got a God who's this all-powerful deceiver who tricks people into believing things for no reason, why wouldn't you use that for everything we bring up? Wait, why is Muhammad covered in semen? No, Allah just made it seem like he was covered in semen. It's easy, right? You can do that with anything.
Exactly. Or, like ABM did, the hadith is correct that he said that, but he was wrong when he said that. So, whoever narrated it was right. It's correct that they narrated that Muhammad said whatever, but they were mistaken that Muhammad actually said that. I mean, you can throw out literally anything you want with that criteria. Or, as David says, you can use the criteria of the Quran and realize that Allah is constantly deceiving people. So perhaps he was deceiving Aisha. There was no actual semen on Muhammad's garments. She just thought there was because we needed this example just in case some other man was covered in semen. I think that might actually be the best defense, honestly. Not even joking. That might be a better defense than anything they've offered. Let's see. Super chat from Villainous.
O son of Adam, spend. I will spend on you. Give, then I will give you. It's difficult because you know what? These are my last few. As it is, the price is going up, the rand is going down, this is happening. Excuses. Those are excuses. You give and watch what Allah does.
Thank you, Villainous, for just giving and watching what Allah does, which I'm guessing is nothing, but you never know. You can watch. Great example because every sperm is sacred. So you see, Aisha was preserving all those sperm for later usage, just as the Muslims who, for example, would take Muhammad's sweat. They'd follow him and try to grab every last ounce of his sweat to use it for good purposes. So you see, this is proof that Muhammad is, in fact, a great example to follow because even his dried up semen that's found in his garment is worth saving. See, all the Christians are coming up with better arguments than the Muslims. I don't know. A couple of people did joke that it was metaphysical semen, or as Pumba says, metaphorical semen. So I'm surprised no Muslim has tried that argument too, since that's what they tend to go to whenever you point out something that's clearly literal in the sources. Like, oh, this is just a metaphor. Again, you could say that about anything. You actually have to have a reason to think something is a metaphor. You can't just say it.
Metaphorical.
Yes, or metaphorical in this case.
Metaphorical.
Me asks a very important question. He says, but how will we know it is he? You shall know him by the stains on his garment. Stains. So I'm not sure 100% the way he interpreted or wanted this to be taken, but I think that he's referring to the fact that the Quran says that the Bible contains a physical description of Muhammad. So surely in the Bible, there are some passages, because this seems to be one of the distinctive characteristics of Muhammad that's not shared by any other man. There must be passages in the Bible, at least the original version that hasn't been corrupted, that talk about how the last prophet of Allah, the greatest prophet, will be covered in semen. I think that's valid. What do you think?
Yeah, they can probably find it. It's yeah. If not, then it's corrupted.
Exactly. That must be the case. You know, Allah declares over and over and over again that Christians have no ground to stand upon if they don't judge by the gospel, but fails to tell them that the gospel is corrupted. Thankfully, 200 years after the time of Muhammad, Muslims started to read the Bible and realized it didn't match up, And since they wanted to keep their heads intact and the caliphate was well established, they came up with the excuse that the Bible has been corrupted and that their God was wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. Knox Play says, is it me or do Thaddeus and Dizzle look very similar? I think it's you. That's my answer. I think it's you. Although it isn't the first time someone has said that. So someone sees something. I don't know. It's like you see glasses in a beard and you're like, oh, they're the same.
Yeah, they think all white guys with glasses look alike. It's pretty racist. Pretty racist thing to say, Knox Play.
I agree. That must be the explanation. So let's see. Jack Ray, Super Chat.
Wasting your time on social media is one of the best deeds a Muslim can do. There's a huge need for it. You know this and I know this. So that makes the reward even greater. So give generously and Allah Azza wa Jal will give you even more.
I have like 12 of those and we keep getting repeats. Bad random draw here. So he wants to know, is David the Tin Man?
Yep. Yo, where you been, man? Just like the Tin Man.
All right. He also said, warning, this video may contain content that may offend you, and I don't give a D.
A darn.
Yes. Jack,
it is
sensitive of you.
It is good that we have all these content warnings, though, just in case the apostate Aladdin happens to tune in. He's got some warnings, plenty of warnings. Can't have enough warnings.
Yes, definitely. If anyone is just tuning in and you haven't seen the content, I'll warn you that if you go back and watch it, you will definitely see some material that may offend a sensitive mind. Another pun on jizya here. So he said you will get more jizya. Then what came out? I'm not sure how to react to that. Just saying. Super chat from Sir Dr. Whitemeat.
If you frequently say it, Allah would pay off your debts. So you can refer to it back again, inshallah.
He says, give a loan to Allah and a load to Muhammad.
Think about it. It's weird. It's weird that we have to talk about this disgusting stuff, but that's just what happens when you try to talk about Muhammad. You can't seriously talk about Muhammad and how he's described in the sources without all this disgusting stuff to talk about.
Mike Harris with the duh statement of the evening. Semen scraping seems like something a 9-year-old girl shouldn't be doing, to be honest. I think I would have to agree with that statement. But, you know, she's a mature woman who has not yet reached puberty, according to the Islamic sources, but that doesn't matter. As she's a mature woman, therefore she should be cleaning Muhammad's clothes because that is woman's work, as we know. Yes, N.A. Odessa, we definitely should have put a trigger warning. Otherwise, we're going to be hearing from Aladdin. Shame. I would hate to be called out by him or, you know, one of the Muslims who comes in and be like, you Christians, all you do is criticize.
Yeah, I lose minutes of sleep over that every time.
Indeed. I always enjoy it, though. I always enjoy it when the Muslim comes in and is like, you spend all of your time mocking Islam. Why don't you ever talk about any facts and good arguments against Islam? I'm like, well, I only mock like 5% of the time, but thanks for letting me know that the mocking is most effective. It's what you actually pay attention to.
That is, yep, they have given us they're constantly supplying us with information on how to destroy Islam. Like, you can say 20 things and they'll freak out about one. It's like, oh, that's the one to focus on, eh? Ha ha. Thanks for the tip, buddy.
So Icarus has a thought that I had as well. Remember the hair gel scene from There's Something About Mary, stolen from Muhammad. I was thinking that would be a good short, is to, you know, take that little clip there and then say, you know, title it like something like, was Something About Mary really about Muhammad? Something like that, and then have the hadith afterwards. Idea for someone. Maybe I'll do it someday. Not at the top of my list, though, to be honest. I really don't want to be known for making videos just about semen all the time. In other words, I guess I just can't accept the glories of Islam. Furkazan says, does anyone want to tell the Muslim anime fanboys that Dragon Ball is a retelling of the journey from the West, an extremely Buddhist story? You know, I mean, you can use Buddhist imagery in Islam. That's not a problem. I don't see why any Muslim would object to that. Let's take a couple more of these and I'm going to wrap up. I'm not going to do all the super chats, but thank you all for them. I much appreciate that. I'll prioritize a couple that have funny comments. From Big Rig.
If you want your wealth to increase in this dunya, then give sadaqah more and more every single day. 2 angels come down. One of them is making dua for those who give. He says, Ya Allah, give those who give.
It wasn't semen, it was Gabriel's glory. I'm just going to say no comment. Super chat from Jack Ray.
Who ate the apple? You ate the apple. The whole apple. Yes, the whole apple. You ate it. But a small seed, you left it. You put it back into the earth. What happened? Allah, through His power, caused that to grow and to give you how many apples? Thousands.
Thousands of apples. Allah was Muhammad's sock puppet. That is not a good thing to be in relationship to this stream.
No sock puppets.
Yikes.
No socks. No socks.
Putting some different meaning on that for sure. And then this one from Hector.
Brothers and sisters, why to lose this great opportunity? Remember, when the person is on his deathbed, the last minute, he will ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to be delayed for 1 second to do what? Not to pray, not to do other things, but to give sadaqah, because sadaqah you can give it just like this, yeah, in 1 second.
Semen stains are a sign of a true prophet. It was in the book of the Council of Nicene, but Constantine, Paul, and the Jews removed it from the Bible.
That's what that's what our good friend Sneeko's response to all this would be. In fact, I mean, really, Sneeko would probably be like, "Oh, it's good to be covered in semen. Let me go with that," or I just go with anything they say.
Yeah, I mean, no offense to Sneeko, but I imagine he actually wouldn't have a problem with this. He'd be like, "Sounds good to me." I feel to see why anyone would criticize this.
That's what they call dawah.
They call that one. All right. So I did want to take this question from Una. Why would David Wood lie? He's a doctor, but is he a medical doctor? So are you a medical doctor?
You got me there. I'm not a medical doctor. I just play one on TV.
And a very important question from Jesus Bot. How do you keep your sanity and holiness when listening to this garbage?
Well, fortunately, years in prison and mental hospitals did prepare me for eventually working my way up to dealing with Islam.
Oh, perfect answer. And a question from Jack Ray. When Muhammad wiped it on the clothes he was wearing, was he ever wearing Aisha's clothes?
That'd be an interesting discussion if Aisha's like, "Hey, Prophet, I have to scrape that semen off you." He's like, "No, leave me alone." She's like, "What are you talking about? It's my dress. I'll scratch the semen off my dress if I want to. I don't care if you're wearing it."
So apparently,
I can't believe you wore my dress and brought it back covered in semen.
As you made the rounds to all the women today. JJ says, semen stains what? So if this is a serious comment, you actually don't know because you just tuned in, you got some entertainment for you when you go back and watch the replay.
And hey, hats off to that Muslim for making a video, but actually including the sources I was sharing on the screen, right? It's easy to try to avoid the issue and just say, oh, David, so he could have just made the video by going, oh, David, he talks about some passages somewhere and some obscure hadiths about Muhammad having some semen on his clothes at some point. Let me say, hey, it was wet dreams. He could have just said that or something like that, but hats off to him for showing all these passages up on the screen.
Excellent. From Caleb, for David, you probably forgot, but I spoke to you on L's Live a few months ago. Do you recommend engaging or debating an MSA near you if you're young?
I would encourage people to kind of learn on the go. In other words, you have people who think, I have to learn everything ahead of time before I actually go out and engage. And no, you didn't. I mean, when I started talking to Muslims, I knew very little about Islam. And then it's just you got to get in the habit. If someone brings up something that you don't know, just say, hey, I'm not really familiar with that. Would you mind if I went back and studied and then got back to you? People are going to be totally cool with that. I would say you should be prepared for the stuff that you know is going to come up. So you should familiarize yourself with their most common arguments for Islam, which they do not have many of anymore, and familiarize yourself with their most common criticisms of Christianity. And this is not going to be 200 different criticisms of Christianity. They're going to bring the same 3 to 7 objections over and over again. It's going to be, where did Jesus say, I am God, worship me? Trinity doesn't make sense. Your Bible's been corrupted. If Jesus is God, how could he pray? Things like that. And then how could God die? You believe Jesus is God, but you believe Jesus died on the cross. How could that happen? And if Jesus died for your sins, doesn't that mean you can sin all you want? Something like that. And that's it. That's it. Prepare for those, and you're good. So, and you can find responses to all those on the website Answering Islam, answeringislam.net. I've made videos about lots of those. Other people have made videos about lots of those. So familiarize yourself with those kinds of things, and absolutely go out and start having discussions with your MSA friends. And just so you know, they've been trained to raise certain objections over and over again. They are still absolutely clueless as to what's in their books and in what's in ours. So any information you're able to share will be pretty new information for your MSA buddies.
And I had a related comment, which I apparently did not save, but it was, I've started to study the Quran for purposes of apologetics. Do you have any advice on what to look for?
I would, yeah, and I always say the same thing with the Quran. Study it topically, because it jumps from just topic to topic. It changes. It's not organized. It's completely disorganized, and I normally wouldn't encourage people to just sit down and say, "Hey, I want to just read through the entire Quran to understand it." You're not going to understand the Quran just by reading through it. You're probably going to give up, which is what 90. I don't have any official statistics, but people who tell me they're going to read the Quran, they typically give up. So I would say 90 to 95% of people who set out to use the Quran, to learn the Quran for purposes of witnessing to Muslims or something like that, never make it. And the risk is that you say, okay, if I'm going to talk to Muslims, I need to read the Quran. And then you never actually finish reading the Quran, so you never witness to Muslims. So you can read the entire Quran all the way through. You're not going to learn much from that, apart from just having kind of bragging rights like, oh, I read the Quran all the way through. So I would encourage you to study topically. So pick a topic you're interested in, whatever that may be. For apologetic purposes, it would probably be topics like, what does the Quran say about Jesus? What does the Quran say about the Bible? Things like that. So figure out topics that you're interested in and having discussions with Muslims, and go you can do a search, or you can get a Quran with an index and look up all the Quran verses that deal with those topics. Learn those well. And I would go to the website again, answeringislam.net. We've got articles on everything that could possibly come up over there. So go there, pick topics that you're interested in. I keep saying what you're interested in because people are interested in different things. It's just more likely that you'll continue in something if you have some interest in it, versus forcing yourself to study things you're not interested in because you think, you know, you have to study those things. So whatever topics you are most interesting to you that you'd most like to discuss with a Muslim, focus on those.
And it is the last hour confirmed. It is tough. I'm only on chapter 18. I want to give up already. Well, if you're on chapter 18,
yeah. If you're on chapter 18, you're doing really well. Keep at it. Keep at it. Because the chapter, they just get shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So yeah, you're through a lot of the most difficult reading.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're probably more than halfway through.
And I don't know how you could put chapter 18 down. That chapter is, I mean, that's got everything in it. Chapter 18 is awesome.
Yeah, so first comment. So you're saying that the Quran is not a literary masterpiece. It's not a pleasure to read.
No, lots of it. I'm saying lots of it is horrible to read. If I wanted to pick some chapters that you could actually sit down and get, chapter 18 is probably one of the best chapters where you could actually just read it. You've got so much cool. You got so many of the interesting, funny stories. That's where you get Dul Qarnayn traveling so far west. He finds a place where the sun sets and so on. That's where you get he builds the wall and they're hiding the hordes of Gog and Magog, and Sheikh Al-Sarkadi says he thinks they're actually zombies and they're these zombie hordes that are going to come out and so on. It's in chapter 18. So you're good. You definitely make it through chapter 18. And then chapter 19, that's Mary. So that's Mary, that's John the Baptist, that's Jesus. That's something that lots of people would be interested in. So you're good. You're good. If you've already got through some of the hardest stuff, you're on an interesting chapter. The next chapter is going to be interesting, and then the chapters just keep getting shorter. So yeah, you keep pushing through. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Most people give up on Surah 2. So if you made it to 18, you're good.
Yeah, so like David said, or implied at least, it is difficult to read. It is very disorganized. There's no benefit of like reading it straight through, right? Because that's not even how a Muslim would read the text. Well, assuming they read it at all. That's not how they would read it, because it's not really designed to be read that way. It's just random thoughts. The surah order has no meaning whatsoever. Well, I guess it sort of has a meaning. It's longest to shortest, with a couple exceptions, but it has no real meaning. It's not chronological. It's not thematic. The same surah will just jump around in topics, so you don't necessarily have to read it straight through. That's one thing I'd say. And two, I would say resist the urge to read something in a sane way. Read everything literally. That's probably the way the Quran actually means it, or the author of the Quran actually means it. There'll be a tendency to say, that's too stupid. That couldn't possibly be what they mean, but it probably actually is what they mean.
Oh, that's what it means.
So that would be my advice on that. Icarus with another funny comment here. Muhammad's goat. You think his clothes are bad? Look at my fur. And Nina with a good point here. You forgot this one. Jesus. They'll ask you, why didn't Jesus know the hour? So there's a couple possible defenses to that, but make sure that you have some sort of explanation that you're
there are, and those are kind of a collection. Those are all related to if Jesus is God, how could he die? If Jesus is God, then who was he praying to? So there's a collection of objections that are all about the incarnation.
Yeah. So if you understand the incarnation well, then you will be able to answer their questions, right? Even if you've never heard the question, they don't know anything. I mean, to be honest, all they know is the question, right? So if you understand the incarnation, just explain the incarnation. It doesn't even have to directly address the specifics of the question, because they have no idea what the passage says. So even if you don't have like a contextual, detailed explanation of the verse they're quoting, just explain that Jesus is man and God, of course.
Yeah, and again, if someone brings up an issue that you're not familiar with, I can't figure out why so many people have a problem with this. Like there's some sort of shame or something like that. I learned on the go, so I'm having discussions early on with Nabil. If Nabil brought up some scientific, which is what happened, right? It'd be, this is a scientific miracle. How could Muhammad have known this? And my response would be, okay, I'll look into that. I'll get back to you next time. Oh no, David didn't know this. What are you talking about? I don't know most information in the world right now. If you bring up some topic that is new to me, I'm not going to make anything up. I'm just going to say, okay, let me go look into that, and I'll get back to you. So no problem. And guess what? It's kind of like a compliment, right? It's nothing to be worried about. Oh, what if this Muslim says something I'm not familiar with? A Muslim says something you're not familiar with, say, hey, I'm not familiar with that. Would you mind if I went and looked into that and then got back to you? It's going to think, wow, cool. Because he thinks if he tells you the Quran's been perfectly preserved or something, you say, hey, I haven't really studied the preservation of the Quran. Would you mind if I went and looked into that? Your average Muslim who absorbed that lie, he thinks you're going to go find out that the Quran's been perfectly preserved because he's never looked into it. He just heard that all his life. And he assumes that the evidence actually supports what he believes. And so when you say, okay, let me look into that, he thinks, wow, cool, this person's going to go out and find out this great information about the Quran. Then you come back, you're like, hey, got some more follow-up questions here. You said perfect preservation. What about this? And the information that you're bringing to that Muslim is going to be completely new information because he's not going to hear any of that stuff from his sheikhs and imams. So these are cool situations to be in. We are in awesome times, ladies. Do not forget, we are in awesome times, ladies and gentlemen. You can look around at the world and say, man, this place is messed up. Look at all this insanity. Everything's going off the deep end here. Do not lose sight of the fact that if you want to refute Islam, if you have a heart for reaching Muslims with the gospel, there is no better time in history than right now. So rejoice.
Indeed. So one more comment on how to do ministry to Muslims. Follow up from Caleb. I saw your oldest public debate with Ali Stahl in front of an MSA. You didn't hold back. You recommend not holding off and blasting Muhammad in front of college kids like you did.
It's going to depend on the situation. So no, I mean, keep in mind when I could have been way meaner in that debate. That was like my second or third debate I ever had. But I could have been way meaner. But as far as the information I was sharing, yes, that would be considered pretty hard-hitting information because most people weren't familiar with it back then. Now they are, because that's what we did. We did that over the years, right? If you went back then, if you told Muslims Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl, they had absolutely no clue what you were talking about. They did not know it back. I'm talking about Muslims in the West. I don't know what Muslims in, different parts of the world may have known. Muslims in the West had no clue about anything I was bringing up. They did not know about the satanic verses. I mean, they'd heard about something called the satanic verses with Salman Rushdie. They don't know what the actual issue is with Muhammad. They didn't know that Muhammad was suicidal. They didn't know that Muhammad thought he was a victim of black magic. They didn't know about Muhammad and Zainab. They didn't know about Muhammad and Aisha. They didn't know about any of this stuff. Back then, if you said Muhammad had 9 wives, they'd call you a liar. What are you talking about? The Quran says 4. They had no clue what's in their sources. And so, yeah, that was an awesome time to share information. But as far as should you come out blasting, it's going to depend on the situation. If you're talking to a Muslim one-on-one and you're trying to keep that discussion going, and they're not being terribly aggressive or insulting or something like that, I would say, you could be as nice as possible while still sharing the information. And so you can share the exact information in very different ways. If someone is being arrogant and condescending and just trying to disrupt the conversation, and you wanted to share something about Muhammad and Aisha, there can be situations where you say, gosh, your prophet was a pedophile and he's covered in semen. What about all this stuff, right? So that there are situations where that is appropriate. If you're talking to a Muslim and this person just, he's being perfectly nice and is interested in having a conversation, there's no need to be a jerk about it. But you can get the same information across as well in a different fashion. So notice two different ways to share the same information. Hey, look right here. All these hadiths say that that Muhammad had sex with a 9-year-old girl. That means he's a pedophile. Your prophet's a pedophile. It's one way of sharing that information. A completely different way of sharing the exact same information. Hey, you were telling me, my Muslim friend, you were telling me that you believe Muhammad is the greatest man of all time, and that he's a pattern of conduct for you. But I was looking at some passages, and I've heard some critics of Islam say that he had sex with a 9-year-old girl, and they shared these passages. I'm wondering, because I don't want to just I don't want to just listen to what critics are saying. I'd like to hear your responses, what responses you have. So, hey, if could you look at these passages, these hadith passages, which people are quoting, and check these out for yourself, and let me know what you think, because I would like a Muslim response. There, you're not insulting Muhammad. You're saying, hey, you've made a claim. I'm interested in evaluating your claim, but I hear criticisms of this claim. I would like to know what your response is to that claim. You have not said anything that is at all offensive there. And what will happen is the Muslim will want to give you an explanation. He'll want to defend his prophet and show you that the critics are wrong, but the information you're giving him, he probably has not read those sources before. He probably doesn't know. He probably doesn't know what anything about anything you're telling him. So you're getting information into his head, which ultimately helps him make an informed decision about Muhammad. Because here's what you don't get. If you spend all your life surrounded by dawah guys, you do not get an opportunity to make an informed decision about Muhammad. They fill your head with complete nonsense. You never hear any of the criticisms against what they're saying. And so guess what? I mean, if you're raised all your life that the Quran has been miraculously preserved right down to the letter, Allah has made human scribes incapable of making a mistake or something like that. If you hear that and you hear about all these scientific miracles and the Quran talks about the Big Bang and all these things, if you hear this all your life, of course you're going to believe in Islam. That's all you've heard is information that supposedly shows that this is a supernatural book and a supernatural. What else? What other conclusion you're going to draw? So you have these claims have to be criticized, and so your goal is getting information into your Muslim friend's head that he is not going to hear from his sheikhs and imams. And there is you eventually get to a kind of light switch moment where it'll be topic doesn't matter, but it'll be something like, wait a minute, I was told all my life, perfect preservation right down to the letter. And then this guy's showing me passages in my own sources saying that entire chapters were lost and that large passages came up missing because the only people who had them memorized died in battle and verses were eaten by a sheep. And then he showed me that there are actually different Qurans in different parts of the world. This is complete opposite of what my leaders tell me. Maybe I can't completely trust these leaders anymore. Maybe I need to investigate this for myself. And that is someone who's on his way out of Islam.
And so we won't be answering this, but I just wanted to point out that Ahmed wants to change every conversation into the age of Aisha because he wants to know what the age of consent was during the 19th century because he's obsessed with his prophet marrying and having sex with a tiny prepubescent girl. So every single conversation has to turn into that, as if the laws of the 19th century have anything to do with what is true.
Yeah, it's the dumbest thing ever. Like, I didn't realize if something was a law, and by the way, if you want to know, I mean, most places would put 12 as a kind of minimum, 12 in puberty as a starting point. Like, don't discuss it before then. You could get married as some sort of agreement. It would as some sort of family arrangement or something like that. But it would be included in the agreement. Hey, no sex before this girl's at least 12 and has gone through puberty. So point is, you could take completely outdated laws, and Muhammad still fails. Muhammad still fails because he's gross. Your prophet doesn't even live. So Muhammad had sex with Aisha before puberty and when she was 9. So guess what? That doesn't even live up to the standards of 1700s and 1800s and 1900s. And the big blunder here is thinking, oh, if something was a law in the 19th century, then we have to agree that it's completely correct and never you can never improve upon it. What the heck are you talking about? Dude, if you say, hey, drinking alcohol is wrong, and I go, oh, but what? But what about the laws that say that it was okay? Would you accept that as a response? No, you think I don't care if it was a law at some point that it's okay. I care whether it's actually wrong. My goodness. Welcome to guys. Have you noticed we never get good responses to anything ever from these guys?
Indeed. They always, it doesn't matter what you're talking about. They'll always try to change the conversation. And usually
it's just weird. It's just weird that now they want to change the conversation to Muhammad and Aisha. We're sitting here talking about Muhammad being covered in semen stains, and what is all this semen? And let's talk about molesting little girls. Ha ha! That's what we want to talk about.
Indeed. Last question here from. Well, there is a joke question as well, but last real question: how would you respond to a Muslim that says there's nothing wrong with making a non-believer pay the jizya for their protection and safely living in a Muslim country? I would say
first thing I would point out is you could say the exact same thing about the mafia, because it's the exact same dynamic when they say, hey, so you got a new business in town, eh? Well, you know, lots of things could happen to your business. So if you wanted to pay us some protection money, then yeah, we could protect your business for you. What do they actually mean? They mean protect it from them. Pay us or we're going to destroy your business. That's what they mean. That's what it means in Islam. You pay them or they'll kill you. That's a command. Fight them until they pay the jizya. That's Surah 9, verse 29. You fight people until they pay you not to fight them. And so if you just refuse, then they kill you. So Muslims are acting, well, it's such a great deal. No, it's not. I don't want to be a subjugated second-class citizen handing you money in acknowledgement of my own inferiority, and you running around to people in the West saying, but it's such a good idea. It's just like paying taxes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, the amount of money isn't necessarily large, right? A lot of people pay more in taxes than the jizya would be. But the purpose isn't protection, right? The purpose isn't protection. The purpose is to make you feel subdued, make you feel inferior. It explicitly says that. The purpose isn't protection. So if they're saying it for protection, they're making stuff up.
Yeah, and you can read their commentary. So read Ibn Kathir's commentary on Surah 9, verse 29. He says the tribute money, jizya, is a sign of humiliation, degradation, and disgrace. That's what it means. You are acknowledging the superiority of your superiors by handing them money and saying you guys are better than me. So yeah, just silly.
All right, so a couple quick comments from Una. May we use the Quran as toilet paper in lieu of stones?
Yes, just use an odd number of pages.
Excellent. But Talmudic Tunnels Construction has a better idea. He says use the Quran to wipe off the semen. Either or. Fareed has an amazing response to someone who is saying that the Kaaba was pagan. He says, people pray in the Kaaba, imbecile. Do you actually know anything, Fareed? Your logic doesn't work, and people generally are not allowed inside the Kaaba. So
yeah, very few people actually get to go in there. Vast majority of people do not get to go inside the Kaaba. But that has nothing to do with whether it was pagan or not, right?
Correct.
What? Yeah. Anyway, I don't even know how to respond.
Yeah. I just wanted to point out that his defense is that people pray in the Kaaba, which basically isn't even true. All right, so I'm going to take one more super chat with animation, and then I'll turn off the animations. Oh, never mind. They already turned off. So let me just run through these to thank you guys. Jack Ray, no comment. Juju B, no comment. HY, no comment. Jack Ray said Apple time, but not the Mac because that stinks. So he's not a fan of Macintosh there, but he is a fan of apples.
Nice.
He said, haha, you see? Don't know as in reference to, but always appropriate.
It's always appropriate. You see is always appropriate.
Exactly. Jack Ray asked, does Einstein, my cat that you saw on stream earlier, snore? And actually, yes, he snores quite loudly. So a weird comment, but happy to answer it. Rick Newton says, give a loan to Allah snack bar. He's broke. You'll reap Muhammad's seed. I think that, you've totally changed the meaning of that clip I play all the time, David, today. I think that might be
stuck with it now. Stuck with it now.
Yep. Hector says semen stains are a sign of a true prophet. Oh wait, I read that one earlier, but it's a good one, so I don't mind reading it again. And from Jack Ray, warning, caution while drinking liquid while watching this stream. So we have warnings about being offended by the content, but also warning to be careful with your drinks because it might have consequences.
Yeah, if you actually spit it on yourself, just be careful. Don't say that you are then covered in whatever you were drinking, because our Muslim friend will object. Oh, but you're not literally 100% covered in it.
Especially if it's tea. And finally, broken controller super sticker. I don't know what that's all about, but thank you for the donation nonetheless. All right, so that is everything. Any final thoughts from you, David?
Nope, just the interesting fact that as disgusting as it is to try to learn about Muhammad and be finding out that he had this issue of being covered in semen, and the great mystery of where all this semen was coming from and why he's walking around with semen on him. One, you never hear about this if you're a Muslim and you're growing up and you're going to the mosque. They're not going to tell you a lot of this information, so you have to hear it from us. You have to hear what's in your sources from us, from the critics, and just too look at the responses. There just aren't responses. The responses are things like, "Oh, you say he's covered when he's not literally covered." Yeah, we know that. And three, it's like tip of the iceberg. It's like tip of the iceberg. You can look in any direction and get way more than just the fact that this guy's a walking semen covered creep. But anyway, that's what you get with Islam. And guys, so the problem is the vast majority of information that people can know about Muhammad. The vast majority of the information that Muhammad's companions thought it was very relevant and needed to be shared with the world, your Muslim friends still don't know because their leaders filter that information for them. And so they're not going to hear this from anyone. They have to hear it from us. And so learn some of this and be sure to share it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll echo that thought. When I talk to Muslims offline, they usually legitimately know none of this information, and they try to repeat ancient talking lines like the Quran being perfectly preserved or there being scientific miracles. Or actually what I find most common with Muslims in real life is that the Bible teaches the exact same thing as Islam, because they see that the Quran has respect for the Bible, and they come to the natural conclusion that they teach the same thing, which if they believe that, that's a really easy conversation to get started there. So I would encourage you to talk to Muslims. And if you don't know any Muslims, find some, right? Because honestly, most Muslims are never going to watch one of our videos. They're not going to be seeking out information against Islam. Some will, and many will come to the truth as a result of these videos, but many will never seek out this information, and they need people like you to talk to them. Just start a conversation. I meant to say it earlier when David was talking about, but to echo a thought of his, no legitimate person will ever take "I don't know" as some kind of weakness. So say they ask a question you don't know the answer, say, "I don't know. I'd like to do some research. Can I talk to you next week about that?" There's nothing to be intimidated about. Normal people in real life are normally very reasonable. They're not like online trolls. All right, so thank you very much for joining us today. I will be back tomorrow for my weekly Bible study. On Saturday, I'm doing some in-person recording, so I will not be streaming this Saturday. I saw that your brother in Christ just now arrived. Just said hello as we're about to wrap up. And that's such a shame that he missed this entire stream, because I'll be recording with him this weekend. And now I don't even want to, because he didn't show up for my stream. Just kidding. But on Sunday, I will be live. I will be talking to a Muslim that I met from the comments section who claims that he can objectively prove the truth of Islam without reference to anything that the Quran or Hadith actually say. So presumably he's going to argue like perfect preservation or something along those lines as the proof of Islam. You don't need to know the content if you know it's perfectly preserved or something like that. It should be a very interesting conversation. He seems like a reasonable, intelligent guy, which, believe me, is 1 in a million when you're talking to YouTube comments. So be ready for that on Sunday. I'll be back with Mary on Tuesday. We'll be reacting to a new argument for the truth of Islam from